I started hearing whispers of Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became.
Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him, just like I walked away from Sabine.
As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. But I'm counting on you to see this through.
We are no Jedi.
This is the Rebel Force Radio Ahsoka After Show. After Show.
May the Force be with you.
All right, I'm going to try to have one nice thing to say for every criticism this week. That's my rule. I gotta come up with one compliment. I'll tell you, I love the rematch between Baylan and Skoll and Ahsoka. That was great. They really play off each other very well. And I think that Sabine and Ezra have a nice chemistry on screen together. Oh, this is going to be hard. I think that's all I got. Oh, the cinematography, some of the shot compositing is just absolutely beautiful on Ahsoka. But I got to say, for the second to last episode of the season, man, oh man, they got a lot of loose ends to tie up. If that is indeed the goal. Maybe that's not the goal. Maybe we're approaching this all wrong. Maybe this was written as a 2-season thing, at least going into the film. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I will say that they better have a 2-hour finale, in my judgment, to make it all pay off, if that is indeed the goal. But we're going to break it all down for you here on Rebel Force Radio Ahsoka After Show. Great to be with you. Thanks for hanging with us. Really appreciate that. These after shows that we do just make the whole experience so much better for everybody, including us. And when I say us, I mean, of course, myself. My name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. I don't know, Jason, I feel like you're putting a lot of your cards on the table here right at the very beginning of the show, and I think there's a lot to be.
Oh, I am. I'm not going to miss any words. I'm not going to mince words.
Well, see,
I started off with positives.
Well, that's nice. That's nice. I've been beaten into submission by this show where I can't even criticize it anymore. I'm just along for the ride because it does feel like, with this being the penultimate episode of season 1, it feels like we're maybe mid-season at best in a typical series. So I hope this is setting the I believe this show is setting the stage, not only for season 2, but possibly for the future of Star Wars in general, because all the pieces are in place as of this episode for the future of Star Wars. You can reunite the crew of Rebels in live action. I mean, that could actually happen and become its own series even. You can feature more of Ezra returning as a full-on Jedi to the galaxy, ready to fight a new empire. You bring back Zeb, Hera, and Chopper. There's sidekicks like Carson Teva and Hu Yang. Mon Mothma is there. C-3PO even. You have your villains in place like Thrawn and the Night Mothers and Elsbeth and Enoch in the gang. I mean, you could spin this off into something that will last for years if the cards are played correctly, and you can have a live action Rebels show. And that sort of stuff can spiral into feature films. And
yeah, but why would we put all our eggs in the Rebels basket? We've already got 3 seasons of Mandalorian, and it's the most wildly successful Star Wars thing since The Force Awakens, probably. So I don't see the Rebels crew, frankly, as being anything but supporting characters to Ahsoka and Mandalorian. I don't see them emerging.
I consider Ahsoka, despite the fact she's the namesake of this show, I consider her to be a supporting character to the Rebels.
It does feel that way sometimes. It does. It does.
So touche, Swank, touche.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I see this more as not even presenting us a real solid self-contained story here in Ahsoka season 1. I think this is being used as a launching pad for much more in the future because you have everything you need right now. I think that
Except a
it's
really good story.
well, there is no story. There
Right,
is
there's no
zero
story.
story in this thing. But again, I have been beaten into submission, and so I am just like marveling over space whales and
You are like
night
Senator
troopers.
Ziono. Mac is like, oh man, Jedi, false Jedi, star map, star whales, distant galaxies. I'm all in. Although Senator Ziono was saying, are we to believe any of it? Are we to believe
He's
any
not
of this?
jumping
It's
in
a child's
shadows,
fairy tale.
He's not jumping in shadows, that's for sure. Now
He's not jumping in anything.
He doesn't believe in Imperial remnants and
No, I think Thrawn could literally land right there on the floor of that committee and open his arms, and he would say, I don't know, I'm still not convinced.
Yeah. To me, Ziono would fit right in on Capitol Hill today. So I don't
I think there's a few Zionos, exactly right, that are there.
Many Zionos.
Oh,
but the episode's titled Dreams and Madness, and I know you're going to do the tale of the tape, Jason, but I got to admit that I was, when I saw the title, Dreams and Madness, that's kind of quoting Baylan from the last episode.
Absolutely it is.
When he was looking around the planet and saying, this is a place of dreams and madness. We have yet to see any dreams or any madness on that planet.
I was thinking the exact same thing. This place is supposed to be so wild. Like, I'm thinking like the inside of SpongeBob SquarePants' brain, like one of those kind of trips where nothing makes sense. It's all upside down, but it's pretty humdrum.
It's pretty much the same old, same old. I mean, they could be on Cetos in the known galaxy. They could be on this Peridia or Peridia or whatever the hell they call it. They didn't even name it on this episode, so I don't even know what planet they're on, quite honestly.
Peridia.
It is. I mean, that's fact. That's fact.
Pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Until I get a better name.
According to Baylan, that's a place that, really originated from fairy tales told in the Jedi Temple when he was a youngling, and that's where he heard of it. And so now that they're there, I was expecting a little more, considering they're in a different galaxy and they're in this place that's a place of dreams and madness. And so just when I thought that title, I'm like, finally we're gonna get inside what's haunting Baylan, what's driving him. We're gonna understand what the path is that he's on. But we didn't get any of that in this episode. We didn't even get a sniff of it.
There's nothing wacky or over the top, which, you would think that with Baylan's line there, and then it was enough of a thing for them to actually name a whole episode on. It's just odd. So let's do the tale of the tape real quick. Like Jimmy did say, episode is Dreams in Madness. We're at part 7 here, Ahsoka season 1, and the director is Gia Vasant Patel. That name sounds familiar. She is had directed multiple episodes of House of the Dragon, that series. Written, of course, by Dave Filoni and a score by Kevin Kiner. Original air date September 26, 2023, and a runtime of about 39 minutes. So there you have it. So we start out this episode with Hera. We knew she was going to have to go back and sort of be on trial. This is it. This is the trial. And there was some cool stuff to look around and see, but the star of the show was definitely Mon Mothma, who we now know officially is Chancellor Mon Mothma. They call her Chancellor, so we know she is the Chancellor. That was being debated.
Yeah, I thought when you said the star of the show is C-3PO, I really jumped to
right. Yeah, it's C-3PO, but all eyes are on
Mon Mothma outshine the goldenrod,
Yeah,
but
I like redheads.
Okay, so but see, also I thought this is their Senate committee, and Mon is on this committee with those other guys, the Senate Oversight Committee. So I thought that was kind of a hearing they were having. Maybe Mon sits in on all of the committee hearings, and
Well, it'd be like the president sitting in on all the committee hearings. Seems kind of
I know you think
unlikely, but this one might have been such a big deal, and she may have had enough of a personal interest in this that she had to be there. But with Ziono, some of this guy's dialogue is funny. And we talked a little bit about this before, where I brought up the issue of, can the revolutionaries, can the rebels, can they govern themselves? And why aren't they governing themselves? In the American Revolution, the revolutionaries formed the government. Here we got the revolutionaries, the rebels, sort of being sidelined, given military posts while the politicians sweeped in. And another thought is, I think some of these politicians, in fact, I don't think I know, are very likely recycled from the days of yore, from the old republic, and in the early days of the empire before it was dissolved. So these guys will be anyone's dog for a bone. But Ziono was saying, we simply cannot allow a general of the new republic security forces to go around acting like this is still a rebellion. So that's a big slap in the face. Like, all you're good for is the rebellion. Leave the rest of it to us. We'll determine if there's a threat, how big the threat is, etc. This is a government, and it has rules and laws which General Sandula seems to have no problem bending to fit her personal agenda. So, she says, well, my agenda is to keep the people safe, and that's by ignoring you, paraphrasing there. But he also goes in to sort of insinuate that she got some personal gain out of this. So I get that. All right. Okay. We get you. You're a bad guy. You're a bureaucrat. But can I buy a vowel? Can I get a clue, Pat, as to why he's motivated this way? He's been in a couple episodes now. Can we get a hallway discussions? Can we see a secret transmission? Can we get some exposition about this? And this is my hang up, Jim, not just with this episode, but with the way that the show is going. And now that we're in part 7, I think Ziono was a great example of this, where they lay track for something interesting, but they give you no meat. They give you no reason behind the characters. He's just, it's like an 80s movie where the blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid is always an a-hole. Well, here's your just typical bureaucrat a-hole with no reason for being there other than be an obstacle.
Right. Well, the only other thing we know about him is he does have a past history with Hera. There's been friction between them in the past. They've butted heads.
Right.
And that was revealed on an earlier episode. And so I think that it is a case where maybe, Hera's hands are a little dirty. Maybe she's used her status as a general and a hero for the rebellion to get away with things and to sweep things under the carpet and to take shortcuts and stuff. And all of a sudden, this Ziono guy, maybe she did something that messed him up somehow. Like fill in the blanks. That's how the storytelling is. It's fill in the blank storytelling. So I'm just thinking that there's something there where she crossed him somehow in the past, and now he's acting like some sort of watchdog over her and keeping her in line. He has her under the microscope, and she, he's going to call her out for everything she's got. And what does she have? Not much. She doesn't have any evidence. Like I said, Ziono, he doesn't believe in imperial remnants. He thinks Gideon is a rogue warlord. He doesn't believe the rumors about Thrawn's return.
Right.
He's skeptical. He's a skeptic. He believes the New Republic. He's arrogant. He thinks the New Republic has it all locked down and doesn't require any assistance from a general who is overstepping her boundaries. But yes, it would be nice to know what exactly the hang up is he has with her. I think it's something personal where she overstepped her. She did something to overstep her boundaries, and it ended up costing him somehow, or maybe, he was embarrassed by something she ended up doing. Who knows? You know, I wish I'd had more fleshing out of the story, but fill in the blanks.
Yeah, fill in the blanks. And I don't know if that makes this show there. I go back and forth. There are times when I think that that's what makes the show fun because it lends itself to a lot of different speculation and chatter. It certainly helps things like the after show here. But then I go back and say, well, no, I think that's a weakness. I think if everything's a mystery, if everything is sort of relatively unknown and kind of on shaky, tenuous ground, then what do you really have? What do you know for sure? And that's a little bit troubling. But yes, clearly the main event last night, if there was one, was the appearance of C-3PO. It was a big deal. It was I didn't hear any leaks. I don't go searching for leaks, but a lot of times they cross our path. Jim, did you get tipped off about a Anthony Daniels 3PO appearance in this?
Yeah, I did, by a buddy of mine who texted me about 5 minutes before I was ready to sit down and watch the episode.
Oh, okay.
Thanks a lot, Ernie.
So it was after he'd already seen it. So it wasn't like, some Reddit rumor or something like that.
Right. No, I had no tip off, and that was C-3PO. That was Anthony Daniels. The role is fully credited to him. The voice, yes, absolutely, 1,000%. But inside the suit, I think so. No other credit was given to any performance artists in the gold plating. Typically, that would go to friend of RFR, Chris Bartlett. But there was no
looked
such
for Chris's
credit
name.
there.
Yeah, I didn't see him.
Yeah. He typically does the heavy lifting when it comes to protocol droids and Star Wars streaming shows. And he's a guy who went from being a fan, making his own C-3PO costume, to actually being an actor playing 3PO all the time, and other droids too. One time I helped Chris get suited up as 3PO, and it was a thrill. That was a very interesting day. That was a day where a bunch of weird things happened that don't normally happen to me. But that was fun. And when 3PO came out there, he says, I don't need to show you identification. I'm like, oh, he's pulling a Jedi mind trick on these guys. You don't need to see my identification. It was very nice, though, that
I don't need to show identification. Please let me through. I am C. And Mon Mothma finishes it. 3PO. So obviously,
and then the music kicks in. The Star Wars main theme plays lightly in the background.
Yeah, that was
Hats
beautiful.
off Kevin Kiner. And also, it's hard to hear, but I picked it up on the subtitles that the first thing you hear him say actually is, "How rude!"
Yeah.
So, that's his. That's
they're accosting him there. He's having a harder time getting in there than he did in Wooer's cantina. And Ziono even insults him and says, "Oh, we're not a mere droid." He calls him. The court cannot admit evidence of this kind from a mere droid. So there's some anti droidism going on.
Yeah, Chopper reacted. He took note of that from the gallery there. He got a little cranky. And I liked how Teva sort of waved him off like
settle him down
to R2. Like in Cloud City when R2 got all excited and Luke was just like waving him down.
Calm down. So, I mean, look, this was a very, very clever device to get Leia's presence into the show. Who better to carry a message from Princess Leia than the Goldenrod himself? And to see Leia rather take the responsibility, take the fall essentially for Hera and say, oh, you know what? I authorized the mission. And by the way, I'm the head of the Defense Council, which that sort of gives us, I think we might have known that. It might have been in the Wendig books of Leia's position there on the Defense Council. She later falls out of favor, obviously, with the government because she's keeping a watchful eye on the opportunistic actions of others that could lead to the fall of the government. Of course it does. And then we see what happens in the sequels and blah, blah, blah. But so Leia is sticking her neck out for Hera in a big way. And, I would think, oh, wow, great. Mon Mothma must be really thrilled about that. But she's kind of peeved. And I was surprised at how she sort of came after Hera. What are you two playing at? It's like, what's the mystery, Mon? You knew why Hera went. You sat here in a hearing. So maybe there's going to be some falling out between Leia and Mon Mothma, which would be kind of interesting. If Mon Mothma sort of becomes the thing that she's spent much of her life fighting.
Yes. I like how she suddenly shifted into Andor level Mon Mothma for a second.
Yeah, she
all
did.
of a sudden, the paranoia, the plotting, it's all back,
But I loved it.
All of a sudden,
I loved
she
it.
slipped right into that. And I love Mon Mothma. I like having her around. She offers a very stable anchor for the New Republic as the heroes are out fighting and stuff. It's kind of nice to have her around, and maybe she can call on some of the heroes for a mission in an upcoming series, sort of like serving the role of Charlie from Charlie's Angels, and you can send out Sabine and Ahsoka and I don't know who else, Ray, get them all together, and then you have Star Wars Angels. Mon's Angels.
You know what?
Mothma's Angels. That's the spinoff, Mothma's Angels. And she can always talk to him from a little thing there. And Carson Teva would serve in the Bosley role. Yeah, I think that's solid gold. Run with it.
You never know. Kathleen Kennedy might pull you up on the Star Wars Celebration stage next time and just say, we got Jimmy Mack here, and he's putting out Mothma's Angels. Is he okay? She looks back at her people. Is he okay, everybody? Is everyone cool with Jimmy Mack?
They're giving her the kill sign.
Hey, anybody that's got a good idea. But at least at this point, Mothma is still willing and able to listen to reason because, she says, hey, put your personal feelings aside and don't deny you have them. How real is the threat of Thrawn's return? And Hera says, we have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. What is the worst? The worst is war. The worst is war in a reanimated empire, consolidated under the leadership of the charismatic Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, but he's also bringing with him a bunch of troopers who may or may not be enhanced by Night Mother magic.
And
Great
Mother magic. Not even Night. Great Mother. You are one great mother.
So and he's bringing back a Star Destroyer, but more importantly, he's bringing back that cargo, that mystery cargo.
Yes.
Again, his audience, we're kept in the blank on this stuff. But what is the cargo? That's, I think, the thing that gives Thrawn his real edge. Whatever this cargo is, the cargo will benefit himself and the Empire, along with the Night Mothers as well, because they have some sort of vested interest in this cargo. They've been keeping it down in their catacombs.
I'll tell you, Jim, I'm fine with that being, I like that being a secret. I think that's cool.
Okay, that's a good secret,
right?
Yeah.
For all those that are, they get mad at us saying, well, Obi-Wan said Clone Wars in episode 4 and he didn't explain it all. Well, that was incidental to the plot at that time. You cannot tell me that what Ezra Bridger was doing between the 4 seasons of Rebels that we were all invested in and now the first season of Ahsoka, you can't tell me that is inconsequential and doesn't matter to the story. Of course it matters. So that's not the same thing. However, a secret weapon, potentially a secret weapon, or something, that gives the villain an upper hand that they keep kind of shrouded in mystery. That's great. I'm all for it. I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. But I'm okay with not knowing for now. And yes, we have to assume that that is a bigger deal and is going to give him some sort of edge, because otherwise, yeah, it's one Star Destroyer, even if it is a couple battalions of troops with enhanced power, that's not going to take over an entire galaxy. So it's got to be more than that. And it will be. There's got to be something that those great mothers are getting out of this deal. Did you notice that one of them called Thrawn Lord in this episode? Yes.
Lord.
Called him Lord Thrawn. And that jumped out at me because it's like, oh, well, who's working for who here? Now, they're both getting something out of it, but it seems to me like they're working for him.
Lord. Usually that's reserved for the Sith when it comes to the Empire.
Right.
So what is like Thrawn is just getting so drunk on power that he's like, they refer to the Emperor and Vader as Lord. Always like the ring of that. I want to be called Lord now. Call me Lord.
I'm a simple man, a man of the people. You may merely call me Lord. Yeah.
Lord.
She says, we are at your service, my Lord. Which, yeah, right. As you say, I mean, how many times did we hear that with Vader and the Emperor? My Lord, my Lord. I mean, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord. That was Vader. And yeah, there was definitely, I guess it had to do with, I mean, did it have to do with their force powers? Was that a title that was given to them because of their
Sith Lord?
Sith Lord. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. I always, even as a kid, I didn't really think very hard about that. Thought, well, maybe that's just a sign of respect. I mean, you call the king my lord or my liege, or
right,
liege means lord. But you're right, Sith Lord. That's got to be it.
Yeah,
but
we also know, in Star Wars, Master is a designation of a certain level of Jedi Knight, but it's also used more in a more informal way by like 3PO to refer to Luke.
That's right, Master Luke. Right.
So he's calling him Master Luke, Master Han, and so there's flexibility with language and terminology in Star Wars, just
but
like
it's always used to signify a hierarchy of some sort. So if the witches are calling Thrawn Lord, then that must mean that he has a place above them.
Yeah,
in the hierarchy.
I guess, the Star Destroyer sort of helps reinforce that.
I suppose. Yeah. But if those night troopers are under their spell, the power dynamic is kind of interesting here. What is it? And, the other thing that I thought of, if those are, what's in those cases are bodies of the ancestors of the witches and all of that maybe they're going to reanimate, take over the galaxy with not Sith power, with witch power. He has essentially the fate of those ancestors in his hands too. So who knows? I mean, they could be concerned, the influence he might have over them is he has control over all these bodies and, everything that came out of these catacombs, thousands of years of ancestors, or, something along those lines. So who knows? Again, hopefully they'll explain it to us at some point. That would be great. How about this? You thought 3PO was a great cameo? It was, but I loved seeing more Hayden as Anakin Skywalker, circa Clone Wars. I think the hair is just done ever so slightly different than when we saw him in the Clone Wars get up the last time. I think they're really being a lot of attention is being paid, I think, to detail here to really get him to measure up to that image, that collective memory we have of Anakin as a clone general. in this recording, something struck me as familiar about the dialogue, Jim, about in this war, you'll face more than just droids, Grievous, Asajj Ventress, even Count Dooku. You could face any one of them. Was this a direct lift from something out of Clone Wars, or was there a scene in Clone Wars where there was a training sequence of Ahsoka with a hologram Anakin? It rang a bell with me. No?
I don't know. I mean, I can't confirm or deny that, but I'm with you. We heard some of this dialogue in one of the trailers, and I had a similar reaction, but I never was able to find the dialogue that he's delivering here as a hologram in an episode of Clone Wars. Maybe somebody knows, but it's not ringing any bells.
Someone mentioned it, Tales of the Jedi. I think that's what I'm
Tales
remembering.
of the Jedi. Well, there is a similar, he says something very similar to her when they're training. And it's that training sequence where she keeps getting stunned over and over again.
Thank you, Todd Stewart, in the chat. There were others, but thank you, Todd.
Yeah. It's like that, but it's not a direct lift. It's not a direct lift, because that is one place I did look when some of this dialogue was showing up in the trailer.
Yeah.
But great to see Anakin back. This is his third episode this season. I'm sick of Hayden as Anakin. No, I'm kidding. I think it's great. I just think it's great to see him come, show up.
I'm over it. It's played out.
It's no. I thought it was cool. Number one, seeing Hayden, of course, in the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars Jedi garb with the armor and everything. That's very cool. That's very cool.
It was clearer too, clearer than what we saw when he was on the planet. It was very misty and pink and purple. So it was good to see the costume with a little more detail.
I thought it was also cool that he name checks Asajj Ventress. This is the first time we've heard Hayden as Anakin refer to that character.
Yeah.
So that sort of jumped out to me too. And there's at least 20 of these recordings, so it opens the door for many more future.
I hope Hayden recorded all of them, so we can. In the old days of StarWars.com, you'd have been able to go in there and you'd have been able to watch all 20 of them back in the if you were a member of the hyperspace. What was that? The Hyperspace Insider or something? I don't know.
Something like that.
I really did like when she was talking with Hu Yang after the training session. She says that Anakin made 20 or more of these recordings. This was his last one. And Hu Yang says, very thoughtful. I never realized. And she gets very sentimental and says he was a good master. I felt like that would not have happened had she not had that moment with him in the World Between Worlds where she got that closure. And it reminded me of Obi-Wan in A New Hope when he said, and he was a good friend. Like there was just this, it was it gave me good vibes. I liked that she'd forgiven him.
I think it's, to me, what I'm getting out of this is that Ahsoka had largely carried the weight with her over all of these years about training with Anakin, and I think she came to the conclusion that Anakin was not a good instructor for her. I think she felt like the whole thing might have just been a big waste of time for her when it's all said and done as she looks back on her history. And then that final lesson with Anakin in part 5, like you said, Jason, I think it opened up her eyes to a few things, and now she's actually popping in old tapes of Anakin and watching them and stuff, and really working on being a Jedi, which is something she had largely abandoned. And I think Hu Yang is important in the way that he thinks about Anakin Skywalker, because he's been traveling with Ahsoka, and he must have heard Ahsoka talk about Anakin in the past, or be despondent over him, or refer to him as a crappy master.
Yeah.
And because when asked about him in a prior episode, Hu Yang said that Anakin was intense, and he just sort of left it at that.
Right.
Let's just say he was intense. I'm just going to leave it at that. But it seems like even Hu Yang has new respect for Anakin upon discovering that Anakin had made all of these recordings for Ahsoka. And yeah, he's like, how thoughtful. I never realized. And so it gives him a moment to reassess Anakin. And I think, and also Hu Yang is a reflection of Ahsoka in a way. I think they both underestimated Anakin's commitment to teaching Ahsoka. I think they all underestimated that. And I think now in retrospect, Ahsoka is seeing it a little more clearly. So she's going back and reviewing these old lessons of his via hologram and going through her training exercises that he taught her. And it's a full circle moment for her where she has regained respect, I think, for both her master and her past history as a Jedi.
Yeah, I think it's also part of her trying to reclaim her legacy and his legacy at the same time, because he's forever going to be overshadowed as being Darth Vader. But there's more to him than that. And he talks about that in the World Between Worlds sequence, that that again, you know, how long were you waiting to throw that in my face again? Well, let me show you. And so I like that. It's kind of like, you know, when you discover, there's historical figures that after a bunch of research and is made that you find out, oh my gosh, they had this long lost child that you never knew. And then these letters get uncovered and then it becomes part of the biography. And that's how I sort of look at the Anakin and Ahsoka connection, because we watched all of the prequel films and we watched the original trilogy and we never knew about her, but there's new information now that we can look at and realize she did exist. She was a huge part of his life, big part of his legacy. So I like that a lot. There is one thing here too that happens between Ahsoka and Hu Yang. I'm just gonna point it out. It wasn't my favorite, but it was this dialogue to explain how she just ends up at the right place, the right galaxy, the right planet, the right time. And I appreciate the fact that they sort of throw in some dialogue to kind of lead us through that thought process, but they don't pay it off very well. Hu Yang says, I would point out that you are assuming the Star Whales have brought us to the correct galaxy, let alone the same system or even the same planet where Lady Ren was taken. And Ahsoka says, I think the odds are pretty good. He says, no. In fact, they're terrible, astronomically terrible. She says, well, you should have said something. He goes, I did, but you never. So anyway, it was a cute scene, and I really love them together. Hu Yang and Baylan are sort of emerging as my two favorite characters in the series so far. But I just thought it was like, why even go there if you can't give a more satisfactory answer than I think the odds are pretty good. What does Ahsoka know that we don't? Unless it's divine force intervention, which we could probably chalk.
That's all you have to. That's all you need. At the end of the day, I mean, 3PO was always quoting the odds of Han Solo about flying into asteroid fields, but Han didn't care because he was a gambler and he trusted his gut. Ahsoka is a Jedi, so she trusts the Force. And Hu Yang doesn't have a connection to the Force, despite as much knowledge as he has about the Jedi and the Force. He has no connection to the Force. So Ahsoka's doing things that he can't possibly comprehend in his microprocessors. But I just want to say, I love the hanging out in the cockpit moments, because it's so just quintessential Star Wars. The repartee between the characters, the chemistry that gets built up in these scenes is so Star Wars. We talk about it on the most recent RFR Q&A with Jamie Bruno. We talk about how that's just such a key element of Star Wars, and we get it delivered really well in these episodes. I love those character moments, and like you said, Jason, Hu Yang is really an emerging character, and he's bringing so much more to the series than I thought the character could be capable of. I wasn't expecting the chemistry between him and Ahsoka to be so solid. I just want more of it. When they hang out in that cockpit, I just want more of it.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were talking about the great character moments that happen when they're on the ship. Obviously, that happens throughout the original trilogy, but also our introduction to Rey and Finn, really, in The Force Awakens. It's a great exploration into their emerging friendship, and I think that was sort of that whole moment with them is she's trying to fix the Falcon, and he's in there chatting it up. Really, I think a lot of fans just fell in love with those characters in that moment. It was just a shame that they didn't keep that momentum that they built up there. But yeah, there's
a direct connection in the dialogue too. When Huang, they're flying through the whalebone debris field, and Huang says, if we stay out here much longer, we'll be pulverized. I mean, that's almost word for word what Leia said to Han when they were flying through the asteroid belt in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. It's great to have those beats in the cockpit, as we say. Okay. Now we got to get to the beginning of my of some beefs here, and that's when we get Thrawn, and right away, I think it's Enoch. It's like Grand Admiral, as you had anticipated, the minefield was triggered by a pod of arriving star whales. Among them was a T6 class Jedi. I just liked that they had to throw in the, yes, as you prognosticated, as you knew would happen. Your strategy is so amazing. But okay, they're introducing the character to a new audience, so they got to build all that up.
Grand Admiral, you've done it again.
Yeah, right. Oh, who'd have thunk? But when he gets the information about Ahsoka, the line was delivered as, this is coming from the Inquisitorial database. I thought that was kind of interesting. So the Inquisitors, there was this database that they had built up on all these Jedi. So it's kind of like, the secret FBI files, the KGB files on all these Jedi. And that's where all this information is. And he finds out that she is the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker. And then I started to wonder, does he know who Anakin Skywalker became?
Yes. Well, he does. You're not going to like this, but it's from the Timothy Zahn
lay it
Thrawn
on
novels.
Okay. The new ones? I mean, the canon ones?
The newer ones, yes.
Okay. All right.
He has a couple of encounters with Anakin. One time, even before he had hooked up with the Empire, he and Anakin, they cross paths. And then obviously they both served the Empire at the same time. So Thrawn had interactions with Darth Vader throughout time. And according to the Timothy Zahn books, Thrawn was able to deduce that Vader was Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, I have no doubt. Probably by the way he walked, by the way he talked, by the way. I have seen that stride before.
When he finishes the second half of his sentences, he tilts his head slightly to the left, just like Anakin Skywalker did. Maybe. I forget how he deduces all of that stuff. But that's according to the books. But I mean, I think that the simple thing to think would be, well, they served with each other in the Empire, and Thrawn must have figured it. If Reva can figure it out, well, she was of course a youngling, so she had some insight. but Thrawn is just a genius, so he figured.
Well, I've
it
always
out.
wondered, and we don't have any definitive take on this as to just how widespread was it, knowledge-wise, that Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. I don't think that it was front page news. I don't think the HoloLink's TMZ covered it as some scandal.
Yes.
But the ones really close to Palpatine and close to Vader probably figured it out. And there were probably rumors too,
Right.
A lot of it was probably rumor.
And now it'll just be there for storytelling going forward, out of convenience. It's obvious Thrawn knew who Vader was. They served together in the Empire, and Thrawn deduced that it was Anakin.
Yeah, that's a very Filoni answer. That's a very Filoni answer.
From the show itself, though, Thrawn recognized the name Baylan Skoll from the Clone Wars. He recognized him as a general in the Jedi army. So Thrawn knows his stuff about the Clone Wars and the Jedi who served in it. Like a Civil War buff would know things, Thrawn's similar. He's educated on the Clone Wars.
You got to know your enemy. I mean, he's the epitome of that. Know your enemy better than they know themselves. And I don't want to discount that is a fantastic strategy, and that can lead to great victory and all of that. The problem that I have, and it sort of happens in this episode, is that it takes his victories, if they happen, and they are few and far between, if I remember my Rebels right. They take a very circuitous route. His victory. They're not a great A to Z line, and it's just always just passed off as that's what he had anticipated. And my absolute favorite part of the whole episode is there at the end when they don't have anything. They don't the Morgan and Thrawn, they've really achieved nothing. The good guys all got away. Ahsoka safely got to the new galaxy, which they didn't want that to happen. And Morgan Elsbeth is looking at him like, "Are you mad?" And she says, "I see only our enemies reunited." Right. Because he goes, "These are unfortunate but acceptable losses given the absence of Lord Baylan," which that is an interesting line in and of itself, which is he was counting on Baylan Skoll. Somehow Baylan Skoll, who he didn't even know was going to show up, somehow Baylan Skoll became integral to his plan. And Baylan removing himself off the board completely upended Thrawn's plan, but he was still able to achieve the one thing that we never knew he wanted to achieve, but he did it, was to stall. He stalled Ahsoka. But for what? So that they could get all the
things. Yeah. One might call this first match with Tano a success. Right. Like, what are you, nuts? All of our enemies have been reunited. But see, that's part of the genius of the plan, I think, is he wants to get them all there far enough away so they can't interfere with his plans to get off planet and take off out of that universe. And he's going to ditch them all and leave them behind. That's not a bad plan, actually. Yeah. He does say that they were successful in getting Sabine Wren far enough away from the Star Destroyer and the Night Mother hang that they're not going to cause any problems for them. They can continue their load in and get out of there. The second the last one of those containers is moved out of the catacombs and on board the Star Destroyer, punch it. So I think that his plan is actually pretty good. He has all of them distracted so he can make a clean getaway. But he doesn't. Time is on his side. So, well, I mean, it's not over yet. Right. They're dealing with each other out in the out in the plains there, but they do have a ship and they can get back to the Star Destroyer pretty quickly. So yeah,
But did they ever really did they ever really pose a threat? He's got a super Star Destroyer. Well, he's got a Star Destroyer, not a super Star Destroyer.
Yes.
He's got a Star Destroyer. He's got all of his night troopers. So you got at best you got one Ahsoka Tano and a T6 Jedi fighter against a Star Destroyer. I mean, so why would you need to distract people that are on the ground fighting hand to hand and one Jedi starfighter when you've got all that?
Thrawn doesn't underestimate the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, who he considered to be unpredictable and quite dangerous. And he thinks Ahsoka will be the same. He doesn't want to risk it. He does not want to risk having her even within a block of that Star Destroyer. So he
does talk about, pushing her out.
Yes.
He shoves Sabine out the door towards Ezra, and then that becomes the bait for Ahsoka Tano. He even says, we're not her focus. We don't need to worry about it.
And these people aren't Thrawn's focus. His focus is on hightailing it out of there and taking with him this cargo that will be beneficial to reestablishing the new empire. So it's not that bad of a plan. I think it actually plays out. I thought Thrawn in this episode was much more akin to the Thrawn I was familiar with from the Thrawn trilogy, Heir to the Empire, and those novels. It was Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. Those are the three novels. And I thought Thrawn was very consistent with that characterization. And then, of course, he was very consistent with how he was presented in Star Wars Rebels. And I'll say that I'm growing more accustomed to Lars Mikkelsen in the role already. So I give his performance 4 dancing thrones.
Well, he is certainly an imposing figure. And, for all the jokes we made about his pot belly, he does have an imposing presence. And I don't know. I still think that he's a boring villain. That was the criticism I had for him on Rebels, and it's the criticism I have for him here. I think that it's punched up. Him being kind of so boring is not helped by the fact that outside of Sabine at times, and now a little bit of exuberance from Ezra, there's a general flatness of all the characters. All of them are very much one note. So you don't have sort of these big highs and lows. You just kind of have this sameness running through this same level of excitement, intensity outside of battles, running through the dialogue, the way the lines are delivered and all of that. And it's like Thrawn really sticks out in a cartoon or an animated series where everybody is kind of over the top and, for lack of a better term, very animated. And then you have Thrawn. And so he makes you kind of stop cold in animation. But on this show, I don't think he's having that same effect because the other character is actually quite low key as well.
Well, that's an interesting take. I find myself more fueled by my own fandom, especially as of this episode. I've just given up trying to crack the code as to why the story is being presented. And I've just gone back into my old ways of just tapping into my fandom and letting that inform me. Because I feel like I almost have to at this point.
Oh, you do.
And it's almost like
they're not going to do it for you.
Right. And it's like if that's what Filoni and those guys want from me as a Star Wars fan, then I can do that. So I'll fill in the blanks. willingly at this point, because that I can't get my panties in a bunch every flipping week over how normal people look at this series and how the non-fan needs their hand held through this stuff. I'm just going to let myself fill in the blanks, and whether I like it or not, I've already been shouting from the top of the mountains from the very first episode about where I consider the pitfalls of the storytelling and writing for this series are. So I need to stop pretending I'm some sort of television critic or something and just tap into my own fandom at this point. That's the only thing that's going to save me and help me enjoy this series. It's because I can't think about it. And I hate that it's dumbed down to that degree, but it's the only way I can make my way through this. Is I'll fill in the blanks. I'll use my pedigree as a Star Wars fan for almost 50 years, and I'll understand the language that is being spoken to me without having to need a translator or someone holding my hand through it, because the creatives are demanding that of me now. They're demanding, and I think that's maybe a little too much to ask of their audience, but hey, also on the other side of the coin, I feel like I have all the information I need to be part of a secret society, the type of society that only us can enjoy Star Wars now. This will really help with my gatekeeping chops.
Oh, that's good.
It's almost
that's
like
good.
they want us to be gatekeepers. They want us to say, oh, well, you haven't put in the 47 years of fandom like I have, so sayonara, pal. But
Well,
if that's the way they're creating the content,
that's really not much my concern is what the normies think. I'm more concerned about what I think and what I want to know, and they're not answering the questions that I want to know. I want to know what happened in the 10 years.
Did you read Heir to the Empire? Did you read any of that stuff? Do you have that background with the Grand Admiral Thrawn character? Have you? No, you haven't. Then
I read the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy. I didn't read the new stuff.
Well, then that's all you need to. That's all you need.
I'm talking about the 10-year. I'm talking about Ezra.
Oh,
as
Ezra.
an example. As one example, I'm talking about when they get to this scene right here with Ezra and Sabine, and it's now time for her to tell Ezra what he missed over the last 10 years. So here are the highlights. The Empire was defeated, Battle of Endor, the Emperor died. That's what people say. She can't say no or definitively yes, because we know he comes back, and Sabine can't be wrong. Okay, there's a new republic. Zeb's training recruits, and Hera's commanding a fleet. Oh, I missed everything. Well, that was it. That's all you missed.
You need to subscribe to Disney Plus, the loser.
Yeah.
But here's it.
But here's the thing. Here is an opportunity that they just let slip through their fingers, or they just took the easy, lame way out. Oh yeah, Ahsoka took me on as her apprentice. She what? Why? Congratulations. Really? You? Go on. No, that's great. Makes sense, of course. You trained a little before, back when I was first learning. Yeah, I remember. It's complicated. Come on.
Yeah, that's rough stuff.
Come on.
And
we're all dying to know why Ahsoka chose Sabine. The writers have an opportunity, and by writers, I mean Dave Filoni has an opportunity to give us some payoff or something about why that happened, what made Sabine special, what made her stand out, why she's training as a Jedi with 0 Force abilities that we can discern. And she goes, it's complicated. Everything's complicated for this genius who succeeds at everything. But when it's where's Ahsoka, it's complicated. How did you get here? It's complicated. Am I going home? It's complicated.
Okay. You're making a very solid point there, and I'm sorry to to think that you didn't read Heir to the Empire, but you certainly are making your point there, and that I just can't help you with that. There's nothing I can do to help you with any of this. Am I disappointed? Yes. Ezra seems surprised, but reasons that she had started training years ago with the Darksaber under the guidance of Kanan Jarrus. But that was specifically lightsaber dueling is what he was teaching.
It's all
her.
about the Darksaber.
He wasn't teaching her to like open up to the Force and feel the Force around her and all that. It was fencing. It was just so she had enough knowledge on how to use this Darksaber to as the thing to unite the Mandalorian.
All right,
people.
hold on. I got to respond to a couple of these chats. Jedi Master Kepi, you fought in the Clone Wars. You'll get this filled in eventually. When?
No,
Jedi Master Kepi. No, wait a minute. No. When Jedi Master Kepi, the whole thing came up in the episode, dude. When is there going to be a better opportunity? No, it won't get answered. And you know that, and you know that you fought in the Clone Wars is not the same as them glossing over all of this pertinent information that's pertinent to the moment, Jedi Master Kepi, pertinent to the moment in the conversation. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And then for the guy that said I'm like Star Wars theory, come on. Go watch that then.
I don't even know. But the thing is, that reference to the Clone Wars was 100% effective in the way that reference was used for A New Hope. It was to establish a previous history between Luke's father and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the revelation to Luke, he didn't know. He was learning as we were as audience members that Luke's father fought in the war and was actually this thing called a Jedi Knight. We're discovering this along with Luke. Luke isn't hiding this information from us for us to discover years down the road or something. This is just a moment in time, used to be a thing that shows and demonstrates there was a past history between Ben and Luke's father established, and that there was a conflict in which Luke's father served and fought in, which Luke didn't realize his father was a veteran of a war. That's all it established, was a past history. And it was enough to fuel Luke on where he was going, to make Luke realize that maybe his destiny was greater than that of moisture farmer. So that reference was 1,000% effective in the way it was used, in the moment it was used. What do you think Ben's going to do? Well, let me start with the Battle of Christophsis, and I'm going to walk you all the way.
It's ridiculous that you even have to explain that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Somebody else in the chat said, well, A New Hope was full of unexplained loose ends. Name one. Name one. There's not a single loose end I could think of in A New Hope. That thing stands alone. There is not a single loose end in that story.
And this kills me. This is what people do all the time. And this drives me insane. If anyone dares criticize your new Star Wars, you immediately go and say, well, guess what? Your old Star Wars had flaws too. That's not the point. We're not sitting here debating Episode 4 A New Hope. We're talking about a brand new series called Ahsoka. That's what we're doing. And we're using our combined near 90 years of being a Star Wars fan to talk about it. So don't come around throwing up the original trilogy that I grew up on in my face. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is a new series, and they've introduced these characters how many years ago, and they've given us a 10-year gap. And this 10-year gap isn't just real to us. It's real to Sabine. She should want to know what the hell Ezra was doing for the last 10 years.
Yes.
So it's not like we're just voyeurs in this. We're fellow travelers with these characters. But they don't seem to think that it matters. Why doesn't it matter?
The reason Luke Skywalker was so effective as a character is because we were riding shotgun with him throughout his entire hero's journey. When things were revealed to Luke, they were revealed to us as well. Luke wasn't keeping us in the dark about anything. His motivations were crystal clear. We knew we were in lockstep with him the entire way. And the mysteries that he encountered were mysteries we were encountering as audience members, and their resolutions were being resolved for us as well along the way. There was never any mystery box around Luke Skywalker. And don't tell me that Darth Vader, I am your father, is a mystery box. It's a twist in a story, but it's not a mystery box.
You know what
the
a mystery box
may have
would
been
have
after
been?
we learned why did Ben lie to him, but I mean, that's George Lucas,
A mystery box for around Vader as
changing
the
the
father
story.
would have been what they did with Rey's parents. We don't know whose Rey's parents are. I don't know. I never knew my parents. No, it was not introduced that way. He knew who his father was. His father was Anakin Skywalker. It wasn't a secret. The fact that he had another identity and went on to become Darth Vader, that wasn't pertinent to the story at that time.
Well, before we continue this, because we can't, as Sabine would say, it's complicated. So we need to stop this conversation right now and start focusing in on our analysis of this episode. But yes, I've heard a lot of the similar things. I've heard a lot of people telling me, well, in 1977, people were saying, and people are telling me this who were born in the 90s. It's like not even old enough to remember the prequel trilogy. It's like, don't preach to me about 1977 if you weren't there. And the approach that George Lucas took to providing us with Luke Skywalker's hero's journey in the way that things are being hidden from us now or left aside or whatever. I don't know what's going on here, but it's become a troubling trend with Lucasfilm as far as their storytelling goes. And you see, we shout frustration about the sequel trilogy, but yet there are a lot of the same names in the credits for Ahsoka that were in the credits for the sequel trilogy. So,
yeah, we're going to don't worry, we're going to get to Baylan. We're going to get to Baylan. As a matter of fact, let's get to Baylan right now. So Baylan Skoll.
Yes.
The only thing that makes it good is Ray Stevenson's incredible performance. He's phenomenal. He's great. You could give him the phone book and he could read it. By the way, some of you don't know what the phone book is, but it used to, before you could look it up online, they would send a big book around to everybody so you'd be able to look up people's phone numbers. He could read anything and it would sound good. He could make it sound convincing and make you want to hear more. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Baylan decides to 86 Shin Hati. It's no longer part of his plan.
Yes.
He says, contact Thrawn, kill Sabine Wren and Ezra Bridger, and then take your place in the coming empire.
Yes.
She goes, you won't help. Your ambition drives you in one direction. My path lies in another. Oh, one parting lesson, Shin. Impatience for victory will guarantee defeat. And she rides off. She rides off.
There was some foreshadowing for this moment, though. Baylan cutting Shin loose. Baylan is disturbed by Shin's single-minded ambition. And this was revealed in the last episode when she was clearly showing her desire for power. She was lusting it. And then we will rise to power, she was saying to him. And he's like, that type of power is fleeting. And so I think he believes her impatience will lead to her eventual defeat. And he doesn't want to have that around him because it could lead to his eventual defeat. So he's deemed Shin unworthy of whatever is driving him on his journey. Whatever it is, I mean, we still don't know, but whatever is motivating him, he believes that Shin will become a liability should she stick around because she's too impatient. She's too ambitious. She's too power hungry. She doesn't see what he sees. He's obviously seeing something. He looks around the place and like, this place is dreams and madness. And it's like, what are you talking about, guy? It's like there's nothing here. What are you seeing? What is he seeing in this place? What's motivating him? What's pushing him? So that's why I think he cut. That's my analysis of him cutting Shin loose. I think it goes back to that prior discussion they had on Cetos when she was maybe revealing too much power hunger, and that made him feel a little nervous. And also he does have the ability to look into people's minds with relative ease, I think. So again, some exposition might be nice here, but I'm filling in the blanks because that's what Filoni wants us to do. He wants us to fill in the blanks for some reason. This is like Star Wars Mad Libs, but I'm playing. I have my pencil.
Maybe he's gonna do what he did with the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars, where you'll have episodes this season, and then next season will just be episodes that took place before the episodes that we saw in the last season. Remember those days?
Yeah, I mean, we went through all that non-linear.
This is going to be part 3.5.
Yeah. Well,
I watched an episode, and then I decided we could do more with those characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
If that's how they want us to do it, that's how I'm going to do it.
So Shin Hati,
I've been beaten into submission. And it feels great.
See what you've done to Jimmy Mac. Yes.
It feels great, though. I mean, I'm just like so chill now. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so
don't patronize me, Swank.
Okay. It was very anticlimactic for me. This parting of these 2 characters, which you're right, it was telegraphed. We knew that they were going to go their separate ways. I didn't know if one of them was going to die or what, but it was definitely telegraphed, just like finding Ezra was telegraphed. And when she found Ezra, it was a big wah-wah. And when they finally part ways, it's a big wah-wah.
No, I was surprised. I was surprised he cut her loose. Ezra, I knew that they were going to find Ezra, but I was still surprised by this. I didn't feel like it was telegraphed as much as there was that the foreshadowing that I see comes from the conversation they had in the last episode where she's lusting power. And that turned Baylan off. There was, I just wish there was something a little more to the dialogue that Baylan would be like, oh, no, you can't be thinking that way. And then she keeps persisting on hitting that point over and over again. And then he just finally goes, I'll never get through to this kid. She doesn't understand the big picture like I do. So I would have liked to see more of that, but I still thought it was a surprise that he cut her loose. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, I assumed one of them was going to die and that the other one would go on, but Baylan is playing the long game here. He's looking for absolute total power. He's looking to reboot the galaxy around some sort of ancient power that would actually enable him to stop the process of totalitarianism, rebellion. The rebellion turns into totalitarianism, et cetera, and he saw the Jedi playing a huge part in that, and he wants to obviously change it. Ezra finally meets Shin Hati. That was kind of funny. There was some witty dialogue there when Sabine says, "Yeah, she's just like you, but lacks your sense of humor." So they can establish these warm moments, and I do enjoy some of that. I like the witty banter, and I think that's really, really important in Star Wars. No one did it better than Han and Leia. They were the masters of that kind of banter in Star Wars. They tried, I think, with Anakin and Obi-Wan a little bit in Attack of the Clones to kind of go there. I never quite thought that they made it, but boy, in Clone Wars they really did. In Clone Wars they were definitely the ones to go toe-to-toe with Han and Leia. But as far as the Shin Hati meeting Ezra, And the night troopers, I was really expecting the night troopers to have like some sort of mystical power. I thought that they would, I don't know, have green smoke coming out of their blasters or have just something to demonstrate that they were different, that they were special. They weren't like your typical stormtroopers. And I got to tell you, after their performance in this episode, I'm starting to wonder if they aren't just regular stormtroopers with red duct tape.
Sometimes the stormtrooper's just a stormtrooper. They all do the same things. Sand troopers, stormtroopers, snow troopers, scout troopers. They all pretty much do the same things. So these guys are night troopers. It's just the name night troopers. And why are they wrapped up in the red cloth? And that's weird. That's there might be something else to these guys. I'm still holding out hope there's something mystical about them, like they're the undead or something like that. But yeah, they were about as effective as your normal stormtroopers are in battle, meaning not effective at all. But they just overwhelm you with numbers. Ezra refused to take his old lightsaber to battle with them. Or a blaster. But he changed his mind pretty quickly. He stripped that one stormtrooper of his blaster and started shooting. I think he just was determined maybe he was a little overwhelmed at that moment or anything. But I don't know. I heard some people today kind of criticizing Ezra not taking up an arm or anything. But I think that it shows a little bit of his growth over the last 10 years as far as the Force being his ally, and that it indicates he's been using his time in exile to take the lessons he learned from Kanan, take the lessons he learned from the holocrons, and he was working on his individual connection to the Force. So I think that's kind of I thought that was a good moment for him. I thought that was a very Jedi moment for him to refuse his old lightsaber. But
it would have been very cool if he turned out to be a really amazing fighter, and if he was doing some really crazy, amazing Jedi stunts. But all he had one move. He had a force push. That's all the guy did. He didn't force choke, didn't force levitate, didn't do anything. But he's too good for a lightsaber. He's evolved beyond that. No, I'm not going to do that, but I'm just going to force push everybody away. You're right. Like, they got this close to it, Jim. You're not wrong. Him basically saying, I've grown past needing the lightsaber. I don't need a blaster. I don't need a lightsaber was a great moment. But then there was nothing behind it. I didn't feel. A couple of force pushes. And it looked like repeat footage.
Well, there were some cool martial arts moves he made and things like that. But yeah, it would have been nice to see him like deflecting blasters with his hand, or just doing something maybe above the norm. A force choke, as you said, that I think that's kind of a dark side thing. I don't know.
Yeah, Luke did it in Jabba's palace.
Yeah, he force choked, but I think Luke was still kind of dealing with some dark side tendencies at that point.
Okay, he grabbed a blaster. All right, chat. Yeah, thank you. He did grab a blaster. Yeah, once he realized
I mentioned that.
Yeah. No,
I said that.
I said that he didn't. I said he didn't use a blaster. He didn't use a lightsaber. He grabbed a blaster. Yeah, fair enough. Fine. Okay, great. Once he realized that his force powers weren't so great in that battle.
Well, also, he refused the blaster when he was being faced by bandits and Shin, but then all of a sudden these troopers showed up in 2 gunships, and that changed the odds a little bit. So I think he was just being practical and grabbed the closest blaster he could get his hands on, just because there were so many.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense to me. I don't nitpick the battle sequences that much, because I think they're really well done battle sequences.
I think
hand-to-hand combat, the saber, all that stuff.
I don't doubt Sabine's abilities when she's fighting. I think the actress does an incredible job. I don't think they hired the actor playing Ezra for his for his stunt skills. I'll say that. I just did not find him to. I found him a distractingly bad fighter, to be honest with you, distractingly bad, and he jumped out in stark contrast to Sabine. So this is a call-in show, by the way. We've got several callers already in the queue. We also have some super chats. We're going to get to those, but let's start with our boy Blake. How about that? Blake might be able to talk me off this ledge. Hey, Blake.
Oh, there.
Hey, Blake, you with us?
It's off somewhere else.
Hello, Blake.
Hello?
Hey,
Blake,
buddy.
Hey.
Help me out, man. I'm spiraling here. I can't take it anymore. I can't make any more excuses. We only got one more episode.
Yeah. This was a pretty, I can say, interesting episode.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have, like, how it should have been. There should have been different moves from Ezra instead of just stopping the saber, doing, like, a backflip or something, then picking up the blaster. He should have used the saber and then, like, done, like, cool tricks, like pick them up and throw them and just stuff like that to make it more like he's evolved from the saber, just like how you guys were talking.
Yeah, he cashes. He writes a big check when he says, with his mouth, when he says he doesn't need. No, you do the lightsaber. I don't need the lightsaber. I don't need it. The Force is my ally. The Force is the only thing that I need. And then what? He gets a few Force pushes. He stops a lightsaber. And then he grabs a blaster. Oh, I'm impressed.
Yeah. He definitely felt, he didn't feel how he does in Rebels. In Rebels, he feels more like he wants to fight. He don't care about all this staying calm and everything. I like that Ezra. This Ezra we're getting, I don't like him as much. He's not as funny. No, he didn't crack a couple jokes every once in a while. Well, he kind of did, but they weren't like.
Well, at the end, he was like, I did like, he did remind me of old Ezra Blake there at the end when he was stalling and he was like, you can take us prisoner. You can take us prisoner. You can.
Yes.
I thought, okay, that's Ezra as I remember him.
Yeah. This is classic Ezra with a touch of Han Solo mixed in. I felt.
Right.
Yeah, that felt like Ezra, but the other things kind of didn't. It just felt like a Jedi who just gave up on the saber most of the time until he'd start talking to Ahsoka and stuff. But it wasn't as good as I thought it would be with him and Sabine. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
How it.
I don't think we've spent enough. You know what though, Blake? I don't think we've spent enough time with them. We could. I mean, their scenes together have been really, really short, and let's give them time. Sabine, I love. I like her character. I love the characterization by is it Natasha? Is it Lou Bordizzo? Whatever.
Besides the whole complication.
I think she's great. I think they chose a great actor as Ezra. I think he's very convincing as Ezra. I don't think he can fight worth a damn. Yeah. Which is a problem. But he's certainly, I think, overshadowed by her. But we just haven't had enough time with him. This show does kind of skip around a lot. It's paced a lot, like a 22-minute animated series. They don't let things breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rebels felt more like they didn't really care. So how Filoni is doing Ahsoka, it feels like he wants to focus more on Thrawn than anything, but he's dimming down all the other characters. You guys were basically just saying what I'm saying.
That is, Blake, you're so right. He is dimming down the other characters. So Ahsoka, the beginning of the show,
she was always grumpy. She would always have her arms crossed. It wasn't really that. I can understand why he did that, to build up the Hayden Christensen as Anakin. This way it would redo her. This way it's like she went back to the Clone Wars. This way she remembered it. This way she's like not as grumpy and everything.
Not as
She's
grumpy.
happy,
Yeah, not as grumpy. I think we got some smiles in this episode, which I appreciated. I needed to see more of a change. I was a little disappointed. You only saw Ahsoka very little last episode. We got to see more of her this episode, so there was much more of a payoff in terms of her sort of having emerged through the World Between Worlds as something different, someone different, slightly maybe, I don't think lighthearted is the right way, but just maybe more wise.
No, spirited. She's just
spiritual.
got more spirited. She's more spirited, and she's definitely more warm. There's more warmth coming from the character, which I think is essential for Ahsoka. I don't want some bummer Ahsoka, because that's kind of anti-Jedi ethos to begin with.
Yeah, Mace Windu was a big wet blanket too.
And, well, but he was so by the book and everything, you know. It's like almost like a librarian. He could have been Jocasta Nu if he just. I mean, that's probably
what he
where
really
his
wanted.
career was heading.
He was. You know, his problem was he was just too much of a badass good fighter, because otherwise he'd rather just been in a library reading Jedi philosophy and law.
That's right.
Yeah. But no, I'm too good of a fighter. I'm too good of a badass. Blake,
speaking of fight.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Speaking of fight, I guess you heard FJ DeSanto calling you out on Rebel Force Radio last week. He was challenging you to what? I don't know, but you responded via video on the Rebel Force Radio Facebook group. I think Jason has the video ready, just in case our viewers haven't been up to speed on this.
Yeah, I did have it ready, and then it the tab stopped or closed on me. Here we go. Got it right here.
FJ, you think you know Star Wars. Well, I've got news for you. I've been in this battle since I was 4 years old. I've watched the entire Clone Wars series 3 times, and I know the opening scroll to every Star Wars movie. You might be a potty mouth prophet, but I've got the power of the Force on my side, or at least the force of 1 million midichlorians in my imagination. So, FJ DeSanto, don't underestimate my power. Are you ready to face the wrath of a pint-sized Padawan? 1 shall stand, 1 shall fall. FJ, you have twice the pride and double the fall. And when I win, I will ask for an autograph on my action figure. FJ, you think you know
it was great. It was great.
That's good.
Okay. Awesome job, Blake. Boy, I tell you what, you could be a professional wrestler with those kind of mic skills. I expect you to do a "What you gonna do, FJ, when the power of Blake's take run wild on you?" But
I mean, yeah, I could have done that.
FJ had a message for you. And I don't know if you probably saw it. I don't know if other RFR listeners have seen it, so we're going to play it right here. This is FJ's rebuttal, his reply to Blake.
Blake, you've made a grave mistake provoking the potty mouth prophet. And with that, despite the fact that you're truly adorable and hilarious, and how much I loved your video, I must accept your challenge. We will duel however you see fit, however deemed responsible for the keepers of the Force and Rebel Force Radio. You and I will challenge each other to trivia, to the depths of our minds and souls, despite the fact that you have a midi-chlorian count of a gazillion. And I'm just a simple man making his way in the galaxy. I accept your challenge, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Well, the battle lines are drawn. It was inevitable. It is coming to this. It's just a matter of time.
So you accept his challenge, right? All right, so we're gonna have to figure this out. I guess
Yeah.
it's gonna come down to a cage match trilogy contest or trivia contest in a cage match for sure.
Right.
But we'll figure it out. We'll get a hold of you and FJ and we'll get you guys in the ring to duke it out. 2 men enter.
Yeah, I
One
think that
pint-sized
FJ
Padawan
is
leave.
a Chuta Dank Ferric.
What, FJ's what?
A Hachuta Dank Ferric.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to the pint-sized Padawan versus the potty mouth prophet, and it's going to be happening on Rebel Force Radio. So place your bets now. It's going to be Blake versus FJ in the steel cage.
All right, buddy. Hey, thanks very much. Thanks for calling. We'll definitely be talking to you soon, okay?
All right.
All right, buddy. Take care. All right, there goes Blake. Oh, you know what? Now I feel better. Seeing that, seeing the fun back in Star Wars, it's great. All right, let's go back to the phones. We got Marty from Georgia. Hey, Marty, you're on with Rebel Force Radio.
Hey, Chut. God, that is so hard to follow.
I know. Someone's got to do it, though. Someone's got to go after. Someone's got to go after FJ,
Yeah.
the
So
potty mouth prophet. No, I know you're talking about.
before I get mad about the Sabine thing, I just had one question, and I wanted to get you guys' opinion. The guy sitting next to Senator Ziono, was that Admiral Akbar?
I thought it was Akbar.
It was just a Mon Cal sitting there.
It was
And
a
I
Mon
like,
Cal,
he's
but
gotta
he was wearing the white Akbar. Here, I can get the picture up on the screen here. So here it is. I thought he looked very Akbar-like. But maybe we need...
Because, I mean, I feel like if it were him, I think he would have said something, anything, to give us some indication it's him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a trap, anything.
Marty, you're not trying to say that all calamari look alike, are you? All right. You don't need to answer that. I'm just kidding. But I know what you mean.
I'll say this just to play devil's advocate. There's never been any indication that Akbar sought out a political career following the war. He'd always been known as admiral. I don't think that he had ever became a senator. And this is a Senate committee. So that would require Akbar to have started a political career, which to me seems a little out of step with his character, but it could have happened. It definitely could have happened. So I'm not ruling it out, because that shot that Jason put up on the screen certainly looked like Admiral Akbar. He was wearing the white. We've never seen Mon Cal wearing white like that outside of Akbar, I believe.
Yeah.
At least not a red fish. Yeah. You know, there's different color Mon Cal. You could have a blue one, you could have a whitish one, but the red one, that's Akbar and his gang, and his officers beneath him would always wear more of a tan or beige suit, and he would be wearing the white to signify he was the admiral. So it's possible.
Trying to get a look at the insignia on there. I thought that might be the giveaway, though ranks can change from Return of the Jedi to 6 years later.
Yeah.
But what Jim said about this being a political tribunal, because I don't think Akbar went that route. I don't think he was a politician.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, Hera is there as a member of the military. So would there possibly be military personnel on that in the hearing involved? I don't know, but it's a great question.
Or just someone to advise, possibly.
Right, possibly. But why have Akbar there if he doesn't say something? Like, it's such a no-brainer. You got to have him, iconic.
Because he does the voice.
Right.
And then just the other thing I was going to say is, Jason, I was right there with you when you're getting a little fired up about the dialogue, about it's complicated. I felt my frustration rising a little bit there. So I mean, you said it very well, I feel like, and I don't want to echo that, but I enjoyed it, the episode. I thought the fights were cool. I like seeing the look on Thrawn's face when they said it was Anakin, because I did read that book that Jimmy was talking about, and I enjoyed that book, so I appreciated the reference. But there are a lot of loose ends to tie up, and I hope they do. If they don't cover them all, they do season 2, or they do something in the movie about it. But overall, I don't know if it was my favorite episode, but it was really good. It was a really good one, apart from the complicatedness. So thank you guys for all you do.
Oh, thanks, Marty. Appreciate it. And thanks so much for the Patreon support. We really, really, really do appreciate that. My wife was asking me tonight as I was doing some show prep. She said, what do you think of Ahsoka? Are you enjoying it? And I said, yeah, I like pizza. I love pizza. Some pizza is better than other pizza, but I'll never turn down pizza. And I know I guess that's my version of what Mac was saying earlier about, okay, you've beaten all the fight out of me. I'm just going to sit here, strap in, and go for the ride. That's the best way I can describe how I'm feeling, which is I'm still having a good time. It doesn't look like it maybe tonight, but I am having a good time. I like to debate and I like to talk about this stuff, but I also think it's important that we expect more. I expected more. I'll be real honest. I expected more from Dave Filoni from a story standpoint with his first live action series. I really did. He is delivering visually what I don't think even in The Mandalorian was delivered, to be honest with you. Even some of the best episodes of The Mandalorian aren't as sweeping as this series. This series looks like Star Wars more than any other series, in my opinion. Even the Kenobi series, which had Vader and Obi-Wan fighting there. I mean, how do you get more Star Warsy than that? So I am effusive in my praise of the way this show looks and the transitions and just everything from a camera standpoint. I just think they're taking a hell of a lot for granted story-wise. And not from the unanointed muggles, but from me, a guy that, has co-hosted after shows and call-in shows about every episode of Rebels that ever was made and every episode of Clone Wars that was ever made. And I still am having these struggles. So that's where it's coming from. That's all, really.
Yeah, character motivation's largely been ignored in this entire series. I mean, we see it on display even in this episode. Really nice moment. I told you I really enjoy the cockpit moments, and I think those moments are really essential to Star Wars. Ahsoka reaches out with the Force to connect with Sabine. And Hu Wang says, your bond with her is strong enough. And she says yes, and proceeds to connect with Sabine, even though Sabine has a hard time deciphering what's happening in the moment. But she says, yeah, her bond with Sabine is strong enough. And it just is so frustrating to me as a fan to not understand even the smallest thing about the bond Ahsoka Tano has with Sabine Wren, because they've barely interacted at all prior to this series. So there's a big gaping hole in their history that we as an audience know nothing about. So it's hard to get on board with the characters and what they're doing with these gaping holes in their stories. Ahsoka and Sabine barely spoke to each other, if at all, in Star Wars Rebels. Ahsoka appeared on Star Wars Rebels in a mere cameo capacity. She was never a regular member of that show. And she's been lost to time for however long. Missing in action for the original trilogy. I want to think she was stuck on Malachor all that time. And she didn't make it back into the universe until after the Empire was defeated. Because that to me provides a real solid out for Filoni and the guys, just to say that, she was stuck there for a long, long time. And so, and with that, you can use that as a way to bond Ahsoka and Ezra by having them share comparable stories about being exiled, being alone, having nothing but the Force. This could be something that would really bond the two characters if they can share their experience with each other. But the characters never share experiences with anyone outside of a little bit of Ahsoka and Hu Wang having discussions, but they don't share anything. And that can be very frustrating. So when Ahsoka says the bond between her and Sabine is super strong and she can reach out with the Force and connect with Sabine, I want to know why. And it's one of those, it's just because there's no foundation here. It lacks substance. We need substance for these characters. Otherwise, the show has been a lot of fun. I fanboyed hard this week, I will say. I fanboyed super hard on this episode this week, watched it 4 times. I thought it was just a great Star Wars experience, but it lacks substance.
I want to point out there, I've got a screen capture up here for those who are listening to the audio podcast of the moment when Sabine gets the Force transmission from Ahsoka. And I love the expression on her face. It reminds me so much of Leia getting when Luke is reaching out to her in The Empire Strikes Back. It's sort of a knowing confusion is the only way I can describe it. And I just thought it was done really, really well. I really, like I said, Natasha Liu Bordizzo, she is the light in this show as far as she brightens up. But I want to go back to something that Blake said, which is it was so well put for a kid. That it's almost like Filoni is dimming some of the other characters, whereas Sabine is so bright. So is Filoni dimming them, or is Sabine just so bright? Definitely a question I'm sort of asking myself, but not to take anything away from the actress. Calvin McPherson with a super chat just says, thank you very much. Rebel Force Radio is my ally, just like the Force is Ezra's ally. That's all I need. Thank you very much, Calvin. 4 Midwest Guys says, prediction. Sabine redeems herself by making a sacrifice that keeps her on the planet and sending Ahsoka and Ezra home. Sabine trains with hologram Anakin. Okay, I'm not buying that, but I did think of something really ironic, Jim, that might happen, which is what if somehow they're all trying to get on Thrawn's Star Destroyer and somehow Ezra's the only one that gets on, and he's the only one that goes to the familiar galaxy, and they're still separated from Ezra, and he's the one that gets home and nobody else does.
Well, I was considering this, and I'm really strongly starting to believe that they will get stranded. I think.
Oh, you think so?
Some of them will get stranded. Maybe not all of them. Maybe Ezra will get away. Maybe none of them will. Maybe Thrawn will be successful in ditching them all. But I think that they'll get stranded, and we'll be left with an open-ended season finale that will be eventually concluded in the Star Wars Skeleton Crew show, because that's supposed to be a show about a bunch of younglings and a Jedi Master getting, or a youngster. I don't know. I mean, if they're Jedi kids or not, but I know Jude Law is supposed to be playing a Jedi Master, and they get lost in space. And so maybe, toward the end of their adventure, they come across Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra, and the hermit crabs and everyone. And they're all like, hey, give us a ride back. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around how there'd be a solid resolution to any of these things being set up by the season finale. I think this whole season is there to set the foundation for future Star Wars.
Got a super chat from Leighton. Leighton says, can't stay and still yet to watch the episode. Oh boy, well, you came to the wrong place. He said, just dropping by to say chut. Would love to hear your predictions for where episode 8 leaves us regards to the main characters. Love the show. Leighton, I think we just did that. I think Mac just did that with where he thinks this is going to end up. Thank you for the super chat. I hope you enjoy the podcast once you've watched the episode. I know that's true for a lot of folks. So thank you very much. I do want to throw this quick plug. I am a collector of physical media, and I just want to throw this out. If you're into physical media, You might want to pick up the Rebels on Blu-ray and DVD. I'm hearing whispers that they are getting harder and harder to find and might be on their way to being out of print. And we know that Disney is real weird with physical media. Yes, they're going to put out Mando season 1 and 2 on Blu-ray and 4K around Christmas time. But in countries like Australia, they're not doing any physical media. And so it's just hit or miss. So if you want to own them, I only had one season, so I picked up the other 3 on Amazon. They're going for like $18 a season. Grab them so that you're not subject to just streaming them on Disney Plus. I just don't trust the stream. I love the convenience of streaming, but I don't trust it as far as like long-term security with my media. Drew Peterson says, what's that?
I want to address a chat real quick.
Sure.
Because I may have said something I wasn't supposed to say, but now it's out there. It doesn't matter. Isaac in the chat says, where was it said that Jude Law will be a Jedi? I haven't seen that anywhere. Whoops. Maybe somebody spoke out of school. So you might want to spoiler alert that thing.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Maybe I wasn't.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
It's going to go off every time I speak now. Yeah, maybe I wasn't supposed to say that. I can't remember what's been revealed and what hasn't been revealed publicly.
Well, just pretend you didn't see that. Drew Peterson says, Leia saves the day a la C-3PO. I see why Leia started the resistance. Too many politicians like Ziono. Yes, absolutely. I think we're going to see much more of that from Ziono. I want to know if there's something more to it than just him being a mean man, like he's Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. He's just a mean, sick, mean old man. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's just trying to keep the rumors to a manageable degree. And like all other politicians, he's fueled by some sort of vested interest somewhere that he feels is in jeopardy should people start freaking out over the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn. That's what I think, just like any other politician.
Sure. You want to quell because you don't want it. Look, it's why the government doesn't admit about UFOs, right? They think we're all just going to go rioting in the streets if the truth comes out. I'm not saying I believe in that. I'm just saying that it's, the politicians want to keep control over the people. They want to make sure that, things don't get out of hand. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just trying to do the right thing. Travis from Ohio, Patreon, and first-time caller joining us. Hello, Travis.
Chut, gentlemen.
Chut, buddy.
Chut.
Hey, just a real quick note on the Pergils, and I'm an OT guy, right? So, let my mind think about it. What about the fact that maybe the lead Pergil that took Sabine or took Ahsoka was the same Pergil that Ezra was able to contact way back when 10 years ago, that went back and was like, oh yeah, I'll take you right to him, just by thinking the fact that Ahsoka was just talking and communicating to it.
Well, then why didn't Ezra jump in the mouth of that Pergil and ride back with him? Why did Ezra wait it out?
Well, just the head canon. Just the head canon can fill it up.
No. Next caller. No, I get what you're saying.
No, don't go, Travis.
I get what you're saying. I think the whole notion that these space whales are making this jump to another galaxy because that's where they migrate to die. I think
they jumped again.
They jumped again because they ended up in the minefield, though, Travis. I was with Mac.
True, but they were able to jump. If they were able to jump back, they could have gone back, and the smaller ones didn't die. They could go back and forth.
Who's to say they didn't just make a hyperspace jump within galaxy? Who's to say they went back? They made that long journey back. I think they scrammed. Okay. They got out of there because of the minefield. And they're probably still within the galaxy.
Boy, talk about fill in the blank storytelling. But who knows what It could be that the younger ones voyage with the older ones who stay there to die. It could be some sort of ritual. I don't know, but I at least I was with you, Travis, from the standpoint of, in this episode, it kind of dawned on me how sad it was that this big grand old Pergil that carried Ahsoka through to her mission was actually going there to die. I definitely, that hit me. That definitely hit me.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. I never really thought that maybe it was the same one as Ezra, but look, as we talked about earlier, you just, some of this stuff you just have to chalk up to faith in the Force. Ahsoka, this was a leap of faith to jump in the mouth of a whale, right? This is biblical. This is mythological. Yeah. I certainly don't want to tell you that you're wrong, that it couldn't possibly be the same whale, because you never know. You could hear from Filoni on a Blu-ray extra someday, and he'd be like, "Yeah, fans of the Rebels might know."
Yeah, exactly. Well, right. Filoni would be like, "Well, whales teach their young this little stuff,
right.
And they come back and they do this.
Whales have really good memories.
Pot of whales coming back, and yeah,
they teach their families." And I had somebody trying to convince me that bees can remember faces this week. I don't know about that. Yeah. Odd. Anyway, thanks so much for the call, and thanks for all the support on Patreon. We've got another first-timer and a Patreon member here, Zach. Zach from North Carolina. Hey, Zach.
Chut, boyos.
Chut. What's up?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Ahsoka. I think, two things. But first, Ahsoka, I think that we're starting to finally see some payoff and growth from emerging from the world between worlds. Like, I was watching this with my wife, and we've watched like Clone Wars and Rebels together. And after the episode, she looked over at me and she was like, "That's the Ahsoka we remember." Like bantering with the Yang, bantering even with Baylan, when Baylan was like, "You can't beat me," and Ahsoka's like, "Well, maybe I don't have to," and then just kind of ducks away on his little
alternatives to fighting.
Those guys, the dog beasts.
What did we?
And then she gives like
the
Ezra,
hot dogs.
What's that?
Oh, I forget what we called them. It was good.
Yeah. And then when she meets Ezra, she gives him a big hug. And I feel like, I don't even remember if she gave Ezra a hug in the Rebel show. That might have been new to him. So I just think we're starting to see that, like, she's really kind of opened herself up to being emotional, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I love that. We were talking about it earlier, the warmth, it's great to see, because Ahsoka was always a very warm, loving, supportive character. She was a contrast to Anakin. Anakin had passion for Padme, and he had a degree of love and compassion for Ahsoka and even Obi-Wan, but Ahsoka was really the heart of that duo. She was the heart of that, and so it's good to see some of that back.
Anakin was so intense,
right?
And Ahsoka was a little more breezy, and I think that the contrast benefited them both in the long. Long haul at the end of the, but Jedi could be kind of stiff and stodgy, but I think they naturally need to be open to the warmth, because that's what the light side of the Force provides. And also they're encouraged to be compassionate and loving. These are things that make up the foundation of the Jedi Order. Before they got bogged down with being generals in an army or arbiters for the government or whatever they were doing, when they sent Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan out to arbitrate between the Republic and the Trade Federation. That's just like a waste of time to be for somebody who's so connected to the Force. There's greater priorities, bigger fish to fry. There's always a bigger fish. And so, you want to see Ahsoka. You want to see the Ahsoka who was part of the stodgy at times Jedi tradition, but she was also like a light and a breezy element within the hallways of the Jedi Temple that was maybe a little unorthodox for some of those buttoned down Jedi.
Oh, she challenged them. She challenged Terra Sinube. She challenged Anakin, Obi-Wan, Plo, all of them. Yes, and that's what made her so endearing, is because a lot of us saw ourselves in Ahsoka and how we would be. We're flawed and we're, human, and she's in there with all these superheroes.
Right. And the show was told like from her perspective and everything.
Right.
True. But she did present, what Yoda intended her to present when he handpicked Ahsoka to be Anakin's apprentice, because he knew that she would present him with those challenges.
So Rich says that she hugged Rex, but that's all that he remembers. And then Connor says that they did hug in the World Between Worlds when he saved her from Vader. So there might be a prior hug going on there.
Right. But that's World Between Worlds, where anything goes.
Right.
So what goes on in the World Between Worlds stays in the World Between Worlds.
Getting back to our super chats, Eric from Phoenix, good pal, says a lot to like in this episode. Can't stick around long tonight. Anyone else think Enoch sounds like an old school Cylon from Battlestar Galactica? Heck to the yes, he sounds like an old school Cylon. I thought so,
These guys were more mechanical sounding. By your command. This guy has a little more. He has inflection in his voice. He sounds a little more human. So maybe similar vocal processing. I'll give you that. But the delivery is all different.
Peter Beiser says, my favorite part of this week seeing where you are, Peter? There you are, Peter. My favorite part this week, seeing Sabine's howler tucked safely inside the naughty Ninja Turtle. I love that. Yes, the howler, we can assume, is the same one that Sabine rode. And yes, he's now part of the tribe. And he was safely tucked there, the naughty Ninja Turtle. Thanks, Jason, J-Mac, and Tyler for the after shows. Thank you, Peter. We appreciate it. He's always here, and he's sort of a unofficial, official chat moderator, Peter, I think, has become. He keeps everybody in line, and
nobody nicer than Peter Beiser.
Nobody nicer than Peter Beiser. That's true. How do you guys, this is Matt Brewer, says, how do you guys think this season will wrap up? We have talked a little bit about that, and I'm sure that we'll have some more in Jim's final thoughts this week as we look to the eighth and final episode. Blue Stripe Lane says, Baylan, Shin parallel, Obi, Luke, and A New Hope. Fly with unlikely ally far away. Do some side quests. Elder and Younger split up. Elder distracts a foe. Younger flees. Could this indicate where the story will go? Thank you, Blue Stripe Lane. That is for me, that's a great reminder about your path lies on a different path from mine. That is, I think it's a great parallel, and I'm going to chew on that.
You chew on that.
That. I like it.
Again, I thought it was surprising that he cut her loose, but also, did you think that when Ahsoka offered to help Shin, did you think she would go for it for even just a second?
Yep.
Did you?
I sure did. I sure did, which I thought was then gonna pit Shin against Baylan in the 8th episode.
We might see. I don't think their relationship is over. I predict there will be a confrontation between Baylan and Shin will be pretty frosty about the fact that Baylan left her, walked her all the way that far and then just ditched her, cut her loose. I think I
don't blame her. I think it was a pretty crappy thing to do. And because we just got the speech from him in the previous episode of, no, I trained you to be something different. I trained you to be something better, greater, that I'm just going to toss aside as red meat to this temporary imperial rise while I go and work on something greater. That's really, it's kind of crappy, gotta say.
It's a left turn. A left turn. And it's just, I wish there would have been a little more telegraphing to us as an audience about where Shin crossed up Baylan, where he lost his confidence in her. I think it's that conversation where she was lusting power and he was mocking her for wanting it by saying that it's fleeting and but his motivations, keeping us in the dark.
I thought that was
about
just
his
sort of
motivation.
typical Master Padawan banter. I didn't think it was a
I
deal
did
breaker.
too. Oh, it was a deal breaker. It was definitely a deal breaker. Yeah. Sometimes it's the smallest things, that sets off a force user.
Right.
But so I just wonder, Ahsoka's holding her hand out. Join me.
Yeah.
I'll help you. So I wonder if that's a foreshadowing for an eventual turn to the light side for Shin now that Baylan has discarded her. Or will she seek out Baylan and try to resolve or get some closure or air some grievances? We shall see. See. I hope some of that happens.
Not only did I think that was a possibility, Jim, but I think that the actress played it as though she thought about it for a second. I do. I think that was either an actress choice or director's choice. Scott Hansen has a question for you. He says, Jimmy Mack, is there a clear Ahsoka's theme? Is it the dun, 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 dun? I can't do it to the melody because I don't remember it. When credits roll, was hoping for something a little more triumphant. The violin melody doesn't quite do it for me. Thoughts? Is there a emerging Ahsoka theme?
The melody is a dun da 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 dun dun da da da.
That's Mando.
It's been there. Huh?
That's the Mando theme.
Oh, maybe I'm mixing up my themes, but I mean, or maybe I'm just my tone is off. But no, you hear it. You hear it throughout the whole show. What do I got to hum it? I don't want to.
You got to hum it.
That wasn't Mando. That wasn't the Mando theme.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's Mando.
No, it isn't. No, Mando is dum 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 dum.
All right, hold on. We got to get to the
dum.
All right, I'm gonna get it. I got to get it. Oh, I can't get it. You know what? If I get it queued up and
no,
play
we're not
it,
playing any
they'll
music
demonetize us. You guys have no idea the vultures that are out there looking for these music cues.
You don't have music, but we have dancing.
That question gets 4 dancing Thrawns, ladies and gentlemen.
Burn, baby, burn. Disco Inferno.
All right. We got first time. Let's see. Wait a minute. We have any more Patreons? Yes, we do. We've got Chris from Las Vegas calling in. Chris, hello. Welcome to Rebel Force Radio.
Hey, Chut, gentlemen. How are you doing tonight?
Chut. How's Vegas? Are you cruising the strip right now? Sounds like you got the top down. You're on a cell phone.
I am not cruising the strip. I've spent more than enough time on the Las Vegas Strip. Thank you very much. Now I spend all my time in the only hinted at if you watch Vegas on TV, there is a suburb. Okay. Many suburbs here. In fact, it's almost all suburb.
Okay.
So I live in where most people live.
All right. That's how it is in like any big city. The townies never do all the the touristy stuff.
No,
but you're watching Ahsoka. That's for sure. So what brings you to our door tonight?
Well, what's funny is, I was thinking, I was thinking about where it was leading, because obviously we're at the penultimate episode. There's not much. There's no runway here. You know what I mean? Obviously, this is going to end on a cliffhanger in some fashion. So I was actually originally calling to get your guys' take on where you thought it was headed, but Jimmy Mack already kind of laid it all out, and I don't want to belabor, making profits. And oh my God, that's already been done to death on this episode with. Foul mouth and, everything else. So, I was actually, I was thinking, though, about Jason going off on the episode, which is somewhat common, it seems, which is cool. I mean, you know. But one thing that I'm always reminded of, I was born in '74. The first movie I ever saw, was Star Wars on a big screen. I was 4 years old. In fact, until recently, I thought I saw it in the first run, but I must have seen it. I was told I saw it in the first run, but my memory is of '78. So maybe I went back. I have no idea. But what I recall, seeing that thing fly, coming up across the screen and being ruined for movies forever. This is it. 1, 2, and 3. That's all we had forever. Forever. It was a desert. All we had were some books, and not even these Thrawn books, all sort of crap. It was Macquarie portfolio books, and a kid at the time wrote a trivia book. I don't know if Jimmy Mac might actually remember that more. I can't remember the kid or the story behind it. It was a child who wrote it. He was like 13.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to hear, so I don't want to talk over you.
No, it's your call. It's your call. Keep going.
Oh, groovy, thanks. So anyway, what I was going to get to is that we didn't have all these, all this extra stuff. You only had your imagination. And when I was a kid, I was thinking the further adventures of Luke Skywalker, right? And the prequels came along, and they were not the further adventures of Luke Skywalker. And they were, people took them as they took them. I took them as I took them, and my response is way different than your guys to the prequels, which is cool though. And then the sequels came along. The thing is that until about 5-6 years ago, we only had 6 movies. We had nothing. Yeah, that's nothing compared to Star Trek, which I guess would be the closest, not in terms of quality or content or I want to give a damn watching it, but in terms of maybe the closest to Star Wars for public, mindset, has TV shows, movies, and everything known to man. And, we've got next to nothing, right? So when I watch all these things, I just think, who cares? If it's not exactly what I'm wanting to see, I'm okay. I'll watch it because you know what? There's something coming out next week, next month. That's going to be more. I don't like Andor. Andor does not speak.
Well,
to
then
me
we have to end this call right
either.
now, Chris. We have to end this call right now because you don't like Andor.
All right. See you guys later. Have a great night. Thank you.
Oh my God. I hope he didn't
He's
hang
out.
up. He hung up. Chris, I was just kidding,
His
man.
point was saying that he remembers the dark times when there was no Star Wars, and he's just basically grateful for anything that shows up on his TV or a movie theater screen that has the Star Wars logo on it. And I feel that, and I felt that for a number of years. But I think Star Wars has evolved beyond that, and it's hitting us so fast and furious that there's 2 ways to go with it. It could get really diluted down, or it can achieve new heights. And I want to start seeing it achieving some new heights. I fear this weird rut we're getting into. And I think that maybe Lucasfilm needs an enema or something, clean that place out and start presenting us with some new storytellers and behind the scenes people that can refresh Star Wars. I think we're at a point where we need a little refreshment here and a little new focus on how to develop and deliver a story with substance, as opposed to just presenting us with a bunch of action figures running around on screen.
Yeah. No, I truly didn't mean any disrespect to him. I was making a joke about, oh, you don't like Andor, we're going to end this call now. I did not mean
It's all right. It was taking him a long time to get to his point anyway, but I think he made his point, and I hear what he was saying, and I appreciated his passion.
Nikki says, keep being honest, boys. All good and bad media have good and bad things about it. Opinions shouldn't make people upset. Laugh out loud. Much love. Thanks, Nikki. Appreciate it. It's great seeing you here this week. Always great to have you in the chat, keeping it real yourself. Yeah, that's where it comes from. It's not so much, for me that I don't mind people disagreeing with me. What I do, what annoys me sometimes is the tact, the sort of the patronizing tact that they take. And I just hate that you've got this 45-year franchise. And if I say, this latest thing is hitting me kind of wrong right here, and they go, yeah, well, the original did that too. Like that's the lamest. First of all, no, it didn't, because it's the original. So no, it didn't. And secondly, yeah, like tearing down the foundation to make your little steeple on top look better is not a good way. It's not a good argument. It's like running out of bullets and throwing the gun. You don't need to tear down the foundation. I'm just pointing out things about this show that are not hitting me in the right way. It doesn't mean that I'm willing to just throw it away or discount it completely. But when a show gets to the 7th of 8 episodes and it hasn't lived up to not just my expectations before even going into the series, but not even my expectations throughout the development of the season, I'm gonna gripe about it. It's just the way it is. So that's where it comes from. It always comes from a place of passion and love for Star Wars, wanting the best for us as fans, wanting the best for the franchise. That's what it comes down to.
And I on the other side of the coin, when people do throw stuff back at us and say, well, the Clone Wars wasn't explained and all that. I mean, I think it comes from a place where they look at, and I'm talking specifically about older fans compared to original trilogy fans. My perspective is someone who's been around for the whole ride. I think that younger fans look at their Star Wars moments, whether it be the prequels, whether it be the Clone Wars, whether it be the sequels or the streaming series. Everyone wants to have that moment that original trilogy fans had in 1977.
Mhm.
They want that moment where the content is so precious and so valued by us as audience members that it changes our lives. And, I understand the desire of the younger fan to want to tap into that emotion. And I also understand the desire of the younger fan to be protective of the Star Wars that they consider to be theirs, their contemporary Star Wars experience. They want to be protective of that. So then when they hear old fans like us say, well, blah, 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 XYZ, and then we compare it to the original trilogy, well, that frosts them a little bit. They don't want to hear that. They feel like we're talking down to them, and they feel like we're preaching to them, and they feel like we're trying to strip them of the preciousness of the Star Wars experience. And they want to protect that. And I got to tell you, I appreciate that. I look at them and I go, oh my God, they've learned from us, because we've certainly fought against the mainstream or the Trekkies or whoever over the years that us Star Wars fans have butted heads with, the Lord of the Rings fans, even, I mean, it's
Are those ringsies? What do we call them? Ringsies?
I think we call them
Ringers?
preciouses, or hobbitses, but and Harry Potter fans also very much,
I gotta tell you, the fact that they are creating a Harry Potter series to sort of reboot the films, and they're going to do this on HBO Max. This has got a lot of kids, much younger than us. I call them kids. They grew up with this, going, "Oh no, you don't. Oh no, you don't. You don't recast Harry Potter." Yeah.
Sacred ground.
Yeah.
I mentioned
Guys,
this a few
wait till
weeks
Daniel
ago.
Radcliffe shows up as Harry's dad in a flashback. That's going to make you feel real old, guys.
I mean,
Let me tell
again, you get protective over that, and you don't want to see anyone taking liberties with the preciousness of the original material. Well, I mean, as Star Wars fans, we deal with it every week when a new streaming episode debuts, and that's always something that's there. And so we try to be, I get it. I get it. Everyone wants to have their Star Wars experience, and they want it to match up with the epicness of when Star Wars debuted in 1977. They want to recapture that. They want to replicate it somehow. They feel like that's part of the experience, and it very much is. So I have to respect that. I have to respect that. I think I'm getting more welcoming to that kind of thing the older I get. Now, then again, I see comments in the chat that says A New Hope was full of unexplained loose ends, and so yeah, I'll push back on that because that's my Star Wars, and I get very precious about that, and I'd like to hear one unexplained loose end from A New Hope. I'd like to hear just one. I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can do it.
All right, well, let's go back to the phones here. We've got another Patreon waiting patiently. This one is Bryce, my grandpa's name, Bryce from Southern California. Hello, Bryce.
That's a cool name. I like that name.
Bum, ba-da-bum, bum, bum, ba-da-da, da-da-da-da. That was the one
There
you
it
were
is.
before, right?
That's the
Right,
one. Right, but what's the Ahsoka theme then? I need you to hum the Ahsoka theme.
Well, I think Jimmy
Dun,
Max
dun,
did
dun,
it. It was
dun,
definitely different.
dun, 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 dun,
There you go.
that's exactly what I did last time. And Swank said it was Mandalorian.
Okay,
Mandalorian is
I may.
Dun, dun.
It's possible I was wrong.
Dun, 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 dun. And Ahsoka is
Maybe this is a great time
dun,
to give my vote that you do another Star Wars Oxygen, but like for the best episode from each TV series.
Oh,
But
there's so
that's
much
not why I
music there, but man.
yeah, Star Wars Oxygen. That's a tough one to resurrect. And I could use the strongest defib paddles known to technology, and it still won't pump any electricity into that dead corpse of a body. So I think we should just move on and appreciate the episodes that exist.
Yeah.
Sure.
What else you got for us, Bryce?
So I think this got us the plot points that we were hoping for. I see the glass half full on this episode. The plot points that we were voting for in the sequel trilogy, in that we got the three reunited, the big three for this TV series reunited, and then we also saw the guy that was stranded on a world far, far away actually learn in the Force and actually be able to take on a bunch of baddies without the lightsaber. So I thought that was cool.
Right.
Anyhow,
I kind of look at it the same way you do. I feel like Ezra refusing to take his old lightsaber or blaster does demonstrate character growth and fills in a little bit of the blanks from the 10 years of absence, in the fact that he feels confident enough with his connection to the Force where weapons are beneath him. And
I love the idea.
I think that's a very Jedi thing. I think that's a very Jedi.
Again, if I was reading that as a book or something, I would love it. It was just that the sequence that followed that proclamation for me didn't live up to the proclamation. That's all.
Well, he did some cool things. I mean, he did more than just a Force push. He did some martial arts moves. They were coming down on Sabine with the saber. He froze it.
All right, when
he froze it, and Sabine was down, and he was able to force pull her out of the blow. So
when
he's doing stuff.
when you see those great behind the scenes videos of Hayden and Ewan working on like choreographing their fight sequences, and they're kind of marking it as opposed to like doing it. They're just sort of like going through the motions. That's what I felt like this was going on with his portion of that fight. I thought it looked like rehearsal footage, like he was marking it. It was so sloppy and imprecise, whereas Natasha is really sharp, really precise with her moves, and it looks like everything's connecting. Where him, looked like, okay, and I do this, and then you fall, and then this comes. That's what it looked like to me. I don't go
Ezra's
into
weakness,
the episode looking for this. It just hits me.
Ezra's weakness as someone who is connected to the Force is on display. He's not all that powerful, because Sabine asks him, he says, "Get her to Ezra," and Ezra makes a slight move on Shin, and she just tosses him aside like he's last week's garbage. And so I think on our force ability power chart, we can look at it this way. Ezra is stronger in the force than Sabine, but he's less than Shin, who is less than Ahsoka, who is less than Baylan. Those are our power rankings for force users on the Ahsoka series. You have this week Baylan Skoll is number 1, followed by Ahsoka number 2, followed by Shin number 3, followed by Ezra number 4, and taking up the rear is Sabine. Maybe I should have rephrased that. But she is number 5.
Okay. All right. You got that, Bryce?
All right. Oh, sure. And I'm looking forward to
Bryce says he doesn't know what just hit him. He's like, is Mac done? Is he done talking yet? You have any other comments to make, Bryce?
FJ versus Blake this Saturday. Oh, brother, yeah.
What you gonna do, brother? Thanks, Bryce. Appreciate it, buddy. A few more super chats here. Oh, look at this one from Ember. My goodness, such a generous guy, that Ember. He says, as an author, I have to agree that Dave is dropping the ball on character development and character moments. Stories are driven by the characters, and if you don't set aside time to explore your characters, it's disservice. I agree, Ember. You're right. Dave's dropping the ball here.
And I hate to say that, he's a friend of the show. I mean, we've known Dave Filoni for a long time, and he certainly learned a lot at the feet of George Lucas. I mean, the tone, the look, the feel, the attention to great special effects and awesome fight choreography, and the pacing is very Star Warsy to me. I know some people complain about the pacing. They think sometimes it goes too slow. I don't see it with the show. I think the pacing is just perfect for Star Wars. But it's character. It's sharing with the audience a little bit more about the characters, and why this show fails to do that just puzzles me. I'm thinking to myself, maybe it's all just everything's so fluid because of all the different Star Wars projects that are happening. They don't want to commit to any, certain things about these characters until they get their spreadsheet figured out or something. I don't know what's going on here. Like, too many cooks in the kitchen, or what is happening with the lack of attention to solid character foundation that I think is essential to the story, and to keep us as audience members in the dark about a lot of these important things that are motivating the characters is a disservice to the story that's being told. So I wonder where along the line something is falling out of sync here, and I don't understand it. I had a big problem with the sequels because a lot of the best parts of that story were told prior or off screen. And again, it's happening with Ahsoka, where there's just too much fill in the blanks. And like I said, I've been beaten into submission, and I will play their game. And that's the only way I can do it to enjoy myself at this point. Because if I get bogged down with thoughts like about story structure and character motivation and stuff, that just, it ruins things like space whales for me.
Mac is throwing up his hands. He's given up, and he's gonna go in. He's gonna go behind enemy lines and feed us information on the other side. From the other side.
No, I can't do that either. I mean,
from the other side, man.
In this show alone, I mean, I've been critical, but I haven't felt myself get like riled up. And
you got riled up a few weeks ago. You got riled up.
Well, like I said this episode, this show, this after show.
This was my moment.
Because there was just something about this episode that made me just sort of fall in step with what's happening, plot holes and all.
Watch it 4 times. I should have. Maybe
watch it 4 times. I loved it. I fanboyed over like a lot of stuff going on in this episode.
I knew when we were on our Jedi Council chat and we were being asked by FJ if we'd watched it yet. And you're like, I'm on my second viewing already. Mad About Digital Art says, Jimmy Mac, we did the lightsaber rankings together on RFR Q&A. I'm curious, how do you rank the lightsaber fights so far in Ahsoka? Personally, I'm digging the samurai feel. Also goes without saying, Blake's take is awesome. We agree. Blake is great. So, Mac, any thoughts here on the lightsaber battles of Ahsoka?
Well, I mean, what we've seen is great. I would like to see commitment to fully fleshing out a saber duel without cutaways or anything. Just give us something like that has a bit more to it. I'm thinking like a Star Wars film and the saber duels there. And I know this is a TV show and it has those restrictions. They can't get as deep as they do in film. But I mean, the saber duels are great. I mean, we had Baylan versus Ahsoka 2 in this episode, and I don't even think we talked about it. I thought it was pretty cool to see them lock sabers again. Baylan doesn't hesitate to confront Ahsoka again. He thought that this was something he'd already put in his outbox. He thought he had killed Ahsoka, and he's very surprised to see her. But there she is being delivered.
Yeah,
she's being delivered to him. You know, it's like God,
she jumps down right in front of him. What are the odds?
Like
I want to hear Hu Yang's odds on that. Oh, not only did we get in the right galaxy, but the right system and the right planet and the right freaking zip code street address in front of Baylan's skull.
Guess who the first person is that you're going to see one-on-one in this new galaxy? Well, it's the sucker who killed you in the old galaxy. So
surprised
enjoy.
yet?
Baylan's like, I can't believe it's raining Ahsokas. What's going on here?
Oh,
I can't believe it. But you know,
like
the
a
Force
dirty
works.
penny. She just keeps showing up.
The Force works in mysterious ways, and I think the Force fueled this second duel between the two of them. But again, Baylan had the upper hand again. So even despite the fact Ahsoka has gone through all of this evolution via her near-death experience in World Between Worlds, she hasn't grown in the Force enough to defeat Baylan's skull. That is clear. And Kenny Rogers would have been so proud of her because she knew when to hold them and knew when to fold them. And Ahsoka knew to fold them and got the hell out of there.
Great
now,
reference.
I just want to say one thing. Very interesting dialogue from Baylan. He goes, I cannot allow you to interfere.
Yes.
And he goes right into dueling. Interfere with what? Is interfere with A, Thrawn returning to the known galaxy. B, Shin killing Ezra and Sabine. C, the elusive power Baylan thinks exists somewhere on the planet. Or D, setting up a new hermit crab trailer park. I think the answer is C. He does not want her to interfere with the elusive power Baylan thinks exists somewhere on this planet of madness and dreams. So I just don't understand what's fueling this guy. This is not impatience, ladies and gentlemen. This is essential storytelling.
Oh, Matt, come on. Wait till season 3. Season 3.
I heard somebody
it'll all be
somebody online was insulting me because of my age, saying that, well, Jimmy Mag's getting older. He's running out of time and patience with the Ahsoka. You know what? F you. Gonna shame me for my age.
Mac's afraid he's gonna die before Baylan Skoll's motivations are revealed.
Can you believe this? You know, a lot of Macinernys have lived to the century mark, okay? I'm not going anywhere, pal, no matter how much you
Oh, you're going to have to shoot Mac on Judgment Day, guys. I got news for you. You're going to have to stab him with a fucking... Oh, excuse me. You're going to have to stab him with a friggin' lightsaber through the gut on Judgment Day. Okay. Sorry about that. Scott St. Louis says, C110P in the house looks good in Mac's studio. What do you got back there? C110P?
Chopper.
Oh, Chopper.
That's
okay,
Scott,
all right.
Scott St. Louis, who gave me the...
Oh, he's the one that sent you the talked back Chopper.
Yeah, you'll be mad, though. I didn't put batteries in it, so...
Oh,
I thought about it right before the show, and I'm like, do I want to run to the 7-Eleven to get battery? I'm like, no. But I'll have this guy. He'll be up and going for the season finale. I promise
Oh,
you.
good.
We
Good.
will be getting roundtable contributions from Chopper. But thank you, Scott. I really love this this Chopper. He's so cool. He's called the Chatterback Chopper, and he's available now on Amazon.
Chatterback Chopper. All right. So here's Casimir Fornalski. Sorry about that, Casimir. Says, keep speaking the truth, Swank. This is a free speech, New Republic, not a conformist empire. Debate is the cornerstone of galactic democracy. Well, thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. That's what we're
some of
we're
these
trying to
like
do.
commentators on Star Wars. I've heard things behind the scenes that have been so disturbing, where they are so like up the corporate Lucas butt that like they won't even like bring up certain names. Like they won't mention names like Charles Lippincott or Gina Carano. Or something. Yes,
Really?
because they're all on board with the corporate cancel culture surrounding these people. They won't
So
even bring
gross.
up
These people are
the name-
disgusting.
They are so wrapped up in up Lucasfilm's butt that they won't even mention the name Dave Prowse. Can you imagine having a corporation, call your shots as a Star Wars fan? You'll never get that here on Rebel Force Radio. So help me God, you'll never get that here.
No.
But that's how some of the shills operate, believe me.
And I know, some of you are out there, you're saying, well, you guys used to have Dave Filoni on the show, blah, blah. Listen to some of the old Clone Wars roundtables. We weren't loving every episode. When Dave was on, when Dave was off, we were very, very open about episodes we liked in that and the stuff that we didn't. And here's the great thing about Dave is he loved it when we didn't like something because he loved the opportunity to explain it and tell us why we were wrong. And, he always did it in this great way, the thing you need to understand is,
We would talk to him on and off the air.
Yeah.
And present him with lists of flaws in his latest Clone Wars episode. Yes. Are we being toxic? Are we being negative? No, we're just talking. We're just talking.
He loved it. He would hold court, before the Disney acquisition and the live action stuff. He would hold court at conventions and people would flood him after a panel and just pepper him with questions. And he loved it. He loved it. He was never at a loss for an answer. That was so amazing. You might not have always agreed with his answer, but he always had an answer. Always. David Fieldson says, love RFR After Shows. Where is Shin going on her warg? Back to Thrawn, back to Baylan. Will she turn face next up? Maybe she considers Ahsoka's offer. All great questions, that's for sure. I think the smart money is she's going to go and look for Baylan. I don't see her going back to Thrawn. My guess is she's going to look for Baylan. She could be going back to Thrawn, I guess. Where do you think she's headed?
Well, I think she's more focused on where her role is going to be in this new empire. And
so maybe she is going after her. So you think she is going back to Thrawn?
I want to see a reunion with her and Baylan.
Mm-hmm.
Not a reunion, but another encounter between the two, where I want Baylan to be a little more explicit about why he felt like he needed to torpedo Shin. I think that we as an audience deserve that, and I think the character deserves that too. The character seemed to be very much in the dark about all of that. But she went with the flow and failed because Thrawn pulled back he pulled everyone out of there. And so as a result, Shin walked away from that as a failure. And so that might, I think I thought she was a little frosted when she said to Baylan, "You're not going to help."
Right. Yeah, she was. Yes.
It's like, we've come this far and you're not going to go through with this.
She's like, where's this coming from?
Baylan was given those orders from Thrawn. Because Thrawn thought that's what Baylan wanted, was to kill Ezra and Sabine. But in reality, Baylan's out searching something more elusive,
bigger
and
fish to
unknown.
fry.
Yeah,
I think Baylan doesn't kill for fun or for anything other. You know, if he has to, he's going to. But that's not his goal. You know, if it's an obstacle and it gets in his way, he'll take it out. But he's got his eye on the prize. He's got his eye on the long game. Yeah. So Bakoshi, sorry if I'm screwing up their name here. Bakoshi Mabaleka says, heard a theory about Ezra's chain link under the shirt is Thrawn's stormtrooper tags he has killed while on Peridia. Thoughts? That's pretty cool. I love that. I love the fact that there's trophies. He says he found RFR during Mando. Love you. Thanks, man. Thanks, Bakoshi. Thank you. Glad that you found us. So the chain link, which Jim, you pointed out last week, looks very similar to Grogu's chain link that he was presented with by Mando. This is a gift from Mando. And it was sort of how he chose. Go with Luke, go with Mando. And he chose the chain link shirt. But any thought as to this theory that maybe these are made up of stormtrooper
I've
tags?
never been made aware of stormtroopers wearing dog tags. And I think in a society where people have chain codes, and the shirt is chain mail, and so they have these chain codes, and they have these pucks, and they have the sensors that can track you down, and all of that
all that stuff.
So there's some sort of elements to, I think, people like their physicality that identifies them. So I find the need of a dog tag for stormtroopers unnecessary at the end of the day.
It's a cool idea. I mean, I like the idea of some sort of trophy or something on the kills. It's a little dark though for somebody.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very Jedi to me.
Yeah.
To be keeping trophies from your victims. That does not seem to be light side.
It's not the Jedi way. Nikki says, I felt more emotion with the Ezra Ahsoka reuniting than with Sabine, all in the smiles and acting. It felt earned. I agree, Nikki. I think that's a great observation. And thank you for both super chats this week. It's very, very sweet, very kind of you. Really appreciate it. It was in the smiles, I like that there was that sort of lighthearted moment at the end, where, Sabine is waiting for Ahsoka, the old Ahsoka, to lower, the boom on her. You gave the enemy the map. You handed it to him. You screwed this whole thing up. Sabine's waiting for it. And Ahsoka just smiles and says, what, miss this reunion? Nothing, never would I would have missed this reunion. So I'm not saying that her punishment, she might get a word or two from Ahsoka at some point, but this wasn't the moment. So I did appreciate that.
Sabine felt like she had no choice, right? Her back was against the wall. Baylan would have killed her.
She believed Ahsoka was dead. She admitted that.
She thought Ahsoka was dead, so she didn't have that protection. And Baylan would have killed her should she had destroyed the map like she was threatening. Baylan didn't seem too impressed with that empty threat either. He wasn't buying it. He thought she was bluffing all the way. Because Ezra, she obviously needs that to find Ezra. So she destroys the map. She not only takes something away from the antagonist, but she also takes something away from herself. So, yeah, she really didn't have much of a decision. Now, Ahsoka does say to Hu Yang that Sabine lacked the training that one would need when confronted with a decision like that
to make the right
decision. Galaxy riding in the balance,
right?
It's hard for someone to make the right choice and to defend themselves against someone like Baylan Skoll. Obviously, you have to be a Jedi of the status of Ahsoka. So I think it's all right there in the story as to why Sabine did what she did and why Ahsoka is I mean, not cool with it, but forgiving. She forgives, she understands the weakness that Sabine had in that situation. Now, as far as her smiling and being more warm and stuff, I mean, some of my favorite moments of the Jedi as they were presented in the prequels were moments between, like those warm moments between Obi-Wan and Anakin, especially at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith when they're mowing down battle droids and having a good time and busting each other's chops. And there's that repertoire, that you know, that friendship that is more obvious. That's character chemistry, which I think is very important, especially in Star Wars and all fantasy, because those are the things that we can latch onto as an audience. The simple human relationships, simple or complex human relationships, but that has to be fueling everything in crazy environments where fantasy elements are popping up left and right between star destroyers and night mothers and lightsabers. I mean, you need some sort of grounding, and we get that as an audience by connecting with the human chemistry that goes on between the characters. So warmth and things like that's very important. You have to have likable characters that you can root for.
Agreed. Dustin Bagley. Hey, Dustin, thanks very much. Says Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra should probably try to keep Thrawn where he is, even if it means stranding themselves. I think they're willing to make that. I certainly believe that Ahsoka is willing to make that sacrifice. I don't know about Sabine and Ezra, because Ezra keeps in fact, the last line of this episode, guys.
Yes, right.
Is Ezra saying, got the line right here, guys, I'm getting a feeling. I think I might be going home after all. And that you know, that can go, you know, in an old war movie, that would be like the kid saying, oh, I can't wait till the war is over. I'm going to grab my girl and I'm going to go to Coney Island. I'm going to eat a big hot dog. And then he gets a bullet right in the skull as soon as he starts fantasizing about going home. It was always that way in those movies. So is Ezra that guy that is never going to get home? Is he the guy that's always talking about going home, but he's not going to get there? Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
What kind of place does Ezra have in the new Star Wars galaxy post Empire? I mean, does he have a place? I mean, what would he do? Would he go
He's
around the galaxy?
You know, they have this day commemorating him, right?
Right. Yes, on Lothal. He'd go back to Lothal and be a rock star.
Right.
But what would he do, like, to make a difference on the galaxy? Would he join Luke's academy? Would he continue to learn, you know, to study the Jedi way? Would he just go off by himself and try to find more hermit crabs to hang with? I mean, what would he do?
Well,
where's his place in the? I would find a place where, like I said, I believe that these characters can establish a great foundation for the future of Star Wars for like the next 10 years if they play their cards right. But they have the lineup.
But is his place, you know, are we looking at, because that's interesting what you say about, you know, what role, what place does he have in the post-Imperial world? If you look at a character like Hera, here's Hera literally being put on trial, essentially. So it is like, what role do they have? What role Leia is having to like kind of play loosey with the truth to bail out Hera. What role do these heroes of the rebellion have in the post-galactic war, galactic civil war world? It is interesting. Are we looking at Hera as, you know, like, what is Ezra wanting to come home for? Just to be another Hera that's
right. Get disrespected, have to cut through bureaucratic red tape. I mean, she's above that after all of her experiences, and so is Ezra, for crying out loud.
Right.
So. We'll see. Hey, we went a little long for this after show because we can't provide RFR weekly this week. There's not going to be a show this Saturday. So we're taking this week off. We'll be back with both the season finale for the after show next week, along with the weekly RFR. I think Kyle is going to be sitting in on that one, and he'll blow our minds with his take on Ahsoka. He'll blow our minds or frustrate us or make us cheer or whatever he does. He'll be 100%
definitely elicits emotion. Yeah, thanks. It's my fault, by the way. I've got some obligations this week. I do want to say a happy birthday to my daughter Bailey, who's turning 15 on Friday this week. Seems hard 15. To believe. I remember telling Mac, hey, gonna be having a baby. I'm gonna need to take some time off from the podcast. That happened twice during our run here with both kids. I think Billy Mack came in and pinch hitted a few eps, and
Dave Filoni himself did.
Dave Filoni himself, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy, crazy. But anyway, she's 15, so happy birthday, Bailey. And I've got some day job stuff that's gonna keep me away. So thanks everybody for their patience and flexibility. Blue Stripe Lane following up says Baylan equals Obi. Shin equals Luke. Ahsoka inverts Vader. Ahsoka's handout to Shin equals Vader on Bespin to Luke. Execution is so-so, but there are so many good inverted parallels. We'll call sometime. Okay. Well, thanks, Blue Stripe. Would love to have your call. You can expound on that because I do love that stuff when it just kind of gets inverted and twisted and shows up in a similar.
No. I am your mother. What? It's true. Search for feeling.
Yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up. But wow, what a fun show this was. Got passionate. What are we if we're not passionate Star Wars fans? We got to be passionate about this stuff. And yeah, I want it to be great, and that's why I do get kind of frustrated, but I'm perfectly willing to entertain other theories, other thoughts. What I'm not so keen to entertain is for anyone to tear down the original Star Wars trilogy to try to make their Star Wars look better. I'm going to tear this down. Not too keen about that, but anyway, great conversations with everybody. Thank you so much. A special thanks to our buddy Tyler Page, the official call screener and the program observer. Tyler, great roster of callers. We didn't get to everybody. We just can't. I think we got all of the Patreons taken care of, but anything we left on the table that we didn't cover, there were a lot of hot takes on this episode.
Yeah, definitely a lot of hot takes. A few of the callers that we didn't get to, I think, were really curious about why Ezra didn't take his saber.
Yes,
and
great
just
question.
wanted to explore that whole fight scene. I don't have an answer for that personally.
Well, Mac watched it 4 times, and I watched it twice. Does the Ezra fight scene stuff enter into your final thoughts at all, Jim?
Well, I just think the reason he turned down the weapons was the fact that he had spent 10 years growing in his relationship with the Force, and he had encountered several situations that required combat over the course of that last 10 years, and he had found that as a Jedi or somebody who's touching the Force, that he can fight just fine without a saber or a blaster. Another thing I was thinking of, maybe after 10 years he didn't want to ignite that thing for fear of chopping off his fingers or something like that. Maybe he felt like there was some rust on the gate. Yeah, there's some rust on the gate. And I think the only reason he actually took a blaster and started shooting was when all those stormtroopers arrived and he realized that he needed a little bit of an advantage because of the sheer numbers of them. So I think it to me, it shows character development of Ezra, and it applies a little bit of knowledge into what he was doing over those last 10 years, and that was growing stronger with the Force and not requiring weapons. To me, it seems very Jedi. That seems like a very Jedi thing.
Cool. Anything else, Ty, you want to add before we sign off here? People love your beard, by the way. I mean,
thanks.
One thing stronger than the Force in this universe, and that is Tyler's beard.
Yes,
It grows
it's
itself.
amazing.
Baylan, I feel like Baylan he still upholds his end of the bargain, because Ahsoka says something like, I don't have time for this. And he goes, I know.
Yeah.
And then lastly for me, I mean, I like this episode, but I hate Thrawn. Thrawn is such a disappointment. It just falls totally flat. Someone compared him to Dr. Evil. I thought that was right on par, over the top. He's always kind of been like that, but really not doing it for me.
Max throwing the action figure in your face. The dancing Thrawns.
He's pissed.
I just love the dancing Thrawns. That is my highlight of the week. But I'm with you, Ty. There are Thrawn people. There are Maul people. There are Vader people. There are Palpatine people. There are Darth Nihilus people. There's all kinds of people out there. And I know there are Thrawn people, but man, I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's not my cup of tea. But you're my cup of tea, Ty. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you next week. Big season finale. And God knows how long it's going to be until we're all together again on an after show with the strikes and all that. Although, was it official today about the writer's strike being over? I had heard that writer's strike is over. Did anybody hear that?
Over the weekend, they had made some real strides. I have not been following the news today, but it appears that they're reaching a resolution.
Yeah, our
there.
buddy Todd
We need the
Stashwick
actor.
on his social media was pretty much signaling that it seemed like the writers' strike was over and the actor strike is still going on. I think the writers are backing up and supporting the actors. So we'll see. I think it was, one down, one to go. So anyway, hopefully we'll be back together again shortly. Thanks, Ty. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Jimmy Mack, final thoughts on this week's episode.
I really enjoyed this week's episode. I mean, I could keep wringing my hands over some real big things that are being ignored as far as the character development, as far as the story is getting, the way the story is getting unfurled at us. But I've given up on that. I'm in for the ride now. I'm jumping on the roller coaster and I'm holding my hands up and I'm letting the wind hit my face and I'm just in it for the thrills at this point, because I can't continue to criticize in the way I have been, because there's no sign that any of this stuff is going to be resolved. These were red flags I was waving earlier in the season, and now we're coming up on the final episode next week, and I don't expect anything. I just hope and pray that this is some long-term strategy at play here, and it's setting the stage for future Star Wars stories to be told well into the future, and those stories I hope are told with a lot more substance than this story is being told. So beyond that, I just want to note some of the parallels I noted between Leia and Hera. Leia was facing similar opposition as Hera was, because Hera's raising alarms about the return of Thrawn. Leia raises alarms about the rise of the First Order, and she gets largely ignored by the bureaucracy in charge. And that leads to her eventually leaving the New Republic altogether and helping to form the Resistance, as we see in the sequel trilogy. So I noted a lot of parallels between Leia and Hera, and a lot of consistencies in the way the New Republic operates. It's like meet the new boss, same as the old boss, essentially, except they're not fueled by the dark side. They're just fueled by their own greed. Sabine finally demonstrates a real connection to the Force. She's able to receive Ahsoka reaching out, but can't decipher exactly what it means. Very much like Leia at the end of Empire Strikes Back, when Luke was reaching out to her. thus indicating that Sabine is primed for training, which has been kind of a mystery up to this point. What makes Sabine a candidate for Jedi knighthood? And she obviously does have some connection to the Force. This episode had great space battles. Time against time is against Ahsoka. She even says it. I don't have time for this when she faces off with Baylan. And that is so true. That is so true. And Thrawn reinforces that later when he says, time is very much on our side now, and I shall keep it that way. So I think in the next episode, as the Chimera jumps back through light speed to return to the known Star Wars galaxy, time is on my side by the Rolling Stones shall be blasting through the corridors of that Star Destroyer as they hyperspace their way home. I would appreciate that. Mick Jagger in the Star Wars universe. It's about time. Puff a pig, not in this episode.
4, 1, 2, 3, 4 dancing Thrawns. It's great. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. Love you all so much. Don't forget to check us out on the official Rebel Force Radio website, rebelforceradio.com, and the flagship podcast is available. Well, all the podcasts are available, the after shows and the flagship show, by subscribing to the podcast feed, Rebel Force Radio, on your favorite podcatcher of choice. There are many exclusive podcasts that are only available to you if you are a member of the Patreon supporters. You heard from so many of them tonight. If you want to hang out with more cool folks like that, you can do that by going to rebelforceradio.com, clicking on the Patreon banner in the right rail, or going to patreon.com and searching for Rebel Force Radio, or going to patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio and supporting our broadcast efforts. We appreciate that very much. Couldn't do it without you all. As Max said, no regular show this week, so this is a great opportunity to go back and make sure that you've devoured all of the after shows and watched and caught up with Ahsoka. Big season finale next week. Can't wait. It's going to be great. We promise it will be epic, and then we'll follow it with another episode of the Rebel Force Radio Weekly Podcast. So, and as I said, the writer's strike appears to be over. Hopefully the actor strike shortly to be over after that, and then we can get back to looking forward to things like Skeleton Crew and Acolyte and more Mando and more Ahsoka, and then the big movies and all of that. So the future is certainly bright for all of us here as Star Wars fans. So that'll do it for us this week. Love you all so much. We'll see you next time for Rebel Force Radio. Big thanks to Tyler. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you always.